It's the Week 12 Sweat Show right here on DraftKings TV. I'm your host, Dan Strafford, at Dan Strafford on Twitter, D Strafford on DraftKings. Glad to have you aboard for Week 12. We have Baltimore and Cleveland underway in Cleveland. It's a McNown v. Schaub sort of night, and a lot of ownership across the board with Barnridge and Allen and McNown, obviously. So this is going to be one to watch as we go through. Maybe a little bit of a downer from a Monday Night Football perspective, but should see lots of movement across all of our tournaments tonight. The Millionaire Maker, we can set up for you here. We just had Wakey jump up to sixth place with the Browns defense starting here. 14.9% owned is the Browns defense, looking to shut out this Baltimore offense that obviously is without Joe Flacco, and will look to get the ship righted with Schaub under center. You have in first place Kesey with 256.7 points. It is going to be tough to catch, but we thought the same last week, and we saw a lot of movement in the second half, and all of a sudden we had a different leader towards the end of the night than we did at the beginning. And there we were with a pretty good sweat as the night went on. So we will have plenty to get to here throughout. We'll cover the week that was, and we'll take a small preview of next week as well. You'll want to stay tuned for halftime as well, where we'll have a bit of a trivia game for you with some tickets to give away. That'll be done via Twitter. I'll ask the questions here, and you'll answer via Twitter. And the first one with the correct answer will win a ticket. Look for that during halftime. We'll be joined by Adam Levitan, Andrew Wiggins, and David Kitchen as always. And let's get to Adam Levitan here to kick off the show as we talk week number 12 of the National Football League. And Adam, another week and football as in general. We get to talk about injuries. We saw Rob Gronkowski go down. Seems like indications are still up in the air. We see some reports that it's minor and he'll be back after a week off, depending on his pain threshold. And then you see some saying it could be multiple weeks. Obviously, Gronkowski as a top tight end, losing him would cause some possible problems overall of finding top end at the position. But does losing Gronkowski maybe open up the position more where you're not worried about paying up for him or everybody else?
Yeah, I think people that have been doing the worst this whole year, and by the way, happy belated Thanksgiving to you and everybody out there. But yeah, I think the Gronk thing is kind of a blessing for people that have been paying up for him all year. I mean, if you're having a bad NFL season, you could probably point directly to spending on Gronkowski way more often than was optimal. Even when he has a game like he had last night where he had a touchdown and he had 6 catches, he still barely pays off his salary. And especially when we're talking about guys like Jordan Reed and Delaney Walker and Gary Gronkage, who we have in the game tonight, kind of doing similar things for 3,000 less. It was just kind of a salary suck to go up to Gronkowski. So yeah, I think Scott Chandler for 2,500 is going to open things up for a lot of people this week. He already had his role expanded with Julian Edelman out, with Danny Amendola out, with Dion Lewis out. Scott Chandler last night set season highs across the board, including routes run, including snap percentage, targets, catches. And I think we'll see a very, very heavy dose of Scott Chandler against the Eagles next week.
We've heard that Amendola should be back for the Patriots. Now, obviously, with injuries, that can be up in the air. But Brady has to throw the ball to someone. Does that give Chandler that much higher an appeal because of the necessity to throw to someone? Or do you think that this is Tom Brady, he can throw to the ball boy and still complete 15 out of 30 passes and 250 yards?
Yeah, I don't know. That's dangerous. That's kind of like what Chip Kelly thought here in Philly. He was like, well, we'll get rid of Deshaun Jackson. We'll get rid of Jeremy Maclin and we'll put in, Josh Huff, the Magic Dragon, and Nelson Aguilar. And Miles Austin in there and Jordan Matthews, and we'll be fine. But as we've seen, receivers have been a huge problem for the Eagles. Tom Brady is certainly a different story, but I would be concerned going forward if I was him with Keyshawn Martin and Chris Harper and Brandon LaFell as my top 3 options. So, yeah, I think Scott Chandler is probably a little bit better of a pass catcher than people give him credit for. He's certainly a big target in the red zone. And the bottom line is that he's 2,500. He's going to be popular, and I think with good reason.
We have plenty of guests to get to tonight here on the Sweat Show between the Millionaire Maker, a couple of Qs, the play action, the 600K blitz. So we'll talk to people throughout the show. And we may end up here, Adam, with the decent sweat because of the possible ownership throughout this game. And when you looked at this game maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, you thought, hey, I'm doing something else that Monday night. I'm going to find somewhere else to be. I don't want to watch Browns, Ravens. But all of a sudden, with how bad these defenses have been, you have some, I guess, slightly more attractive options here. I know the old line was you can't slap lipstick on a pig. But here we have it where we probably have a lot of ownership across multiple tournaments here between Barnridge and McCown. And as I said on the other side, Buck Allen. And did you think this would happen? Did you think we'd get to this week 12 and have higher ownership percentages in this contest?
No. If you look at a lot of these AFC North games, a lot of times they're slugfest, and a lot of these Browns-Ravens games are super low scoring. And quite frankly, this game projects to be low scoring too. That's kind of why I kind of shied away late in the week from Buck Allen, and I need no Buck Allen tonight. I know Mr. Kitchen has a lot of Buck Allen tonight. I need no Buck Allen tonight. But with the game with a total of 41, some people have Barnkowski, McCown, and Buck Allen. That would have scared me a little bit with a game with a total of 41. But we'll see how it goes. There's certainly a lot of value in all those guys. I have a lots of the Gary Gronkage / Gary Barnkowski, whatever you want to call him.
Now, does that come second nature at this point in the season? Is that just the mental recall of what his name actually is, or do you have to prepare yourself every time you go to talk about him to properly recite his name in the vast world of Rob Gronkowski?
Yeah, I don't know what is his real name now. I don't even know. I mean, he's better. He's been just as good as Mr. the real Gronkowski all year. So yeah, I'm on Team Gronkage.
So we get rid of Gronkowski, possibly at least for a week, and what would have been a good matchup. We talk about Chandler, but there are other injuries throughout the NFL that continue to crop up, and we see that guys like Chris Johnson, the tibia injury, the broken tibia. You have Andre Ellington with turf toe. We know that Bruce Arians doesn't like to go to Ellington when banged up, and when isn't Andre Ellington banged up, to be quite honest. Do we get the next step out there? Do we get David Johnson? Do we get the possibility of another cheap running back thrown into the mix here for a Cardinals offense that obviously has been humming all year long?
Yeah, and David Johnson is an exciting player. Like, I would be way more excited about David Johnson than any of these other guys that we played this past week, like Tevin Coleman and Yeldon and Spencer Ware and Buck Allen. I mean, David Johnson's just measurables are just totally off the charts. Excellent in the pass game. If you follow kind of the Spark ratings, which is basically a metric that measures a prospect's athleticism, David Johnson was completely off the charts. Super explosive. So yeah, I don't think that he'll get like a full workload. I don't know if they're ready to trust him that. I think Stephon Taylor will be involved for the Cardinals, but I still think that we could get 13, 15, 16 touches out of David Johnson against the Rams, and that should be very, very profitable.
And is CJ Anderson back? Is the Broncos running style of offense back now with Brock Osweiler under center?
Yeah, I think CJ Anderson has gotten a lot healthier, which helps, and I think having a quarterback in there that can actually run Gary Kubiak's preferred system, which is not out of the shotgun, which is under center, which is zone blocking. I mean, having a guy that can do the bootlegs and the rollouts and all the play action stuff is going to help a lot. And also just an ability to threaten the defense deep. Obviously, Peyton Manning could no longer threaten the defense deep. Brock certainly can. So, the concern for me is that Hillman and Anderson are still splitting time there. But, I think CJA is certainly back in our lives.
We've had a couple of punts here in this early going of the Cleveland-Baltimore game, and still 10-12 to go in the first quarter. Maybe a lot of this tonight. Maybe a lot of hoping for punt returns that set up the offense in a good spot to score. As Adam said, a low-scoring affair most likely. Hopefully it turns out to be a bit of an ugly game from a defensive standpoint, put up some points and change around this sweat. And honestly, on cue, I may be prophetic here. This is impressive as a Ravens punt return down the sideline for a score. I don't see any flags, so some defensive special teams points there for Baltimore. And why not? Don't give Matt Schaub the ball. don't give him any responsibility tonight. Do it all with defense and special teams as Baltimore goes up 6-0. And Adam, this is going to be that sort of night. I don't think you're going to see a ton of Baltimore ownership there. I can find the percentage of ownership here in the Millionaire Maker, but Cleveland's a pretty bad offense too. I know people like McCown as a streamer. I know they've used him because of Baltimore being bad, but would you peg a Baltimore defensive ownership around 4%, 5% in this sort of tournament, or a little lower than that?
Yeah, probably something around there. Baltimore defense has been very bad all year. They have been a lot better lately since they got Ladarius Webb and Jimmy Smith playing a lot better in the secondary. They still have a decent pass rush. So, I didn't even playing Ravens defense did not even cross my mind, and I'm sure it didn't cross a lot of people's minds. So I would presume they have very, very low ownership.
We do have, and this is due to the ownership of the Ravens defense. We had somebody just jump up to 12th place in the Millionaire Maker with 237.2 points here. BSLC, don't think that really spells anything out, but they picked up the 6 points there on the defensive touchdown, have 16 points from the Ravens and up into 11th place. So a big play there for them. We do have two teams here with the multiple teams now. As I refresh here, you have a team in 7th, a team in 10th with the Ravens defense as well. So some movement here early, Adam, with the Ravens D at 1.9% owned.
Wow. Yeah, and maybe some of those were pivots. I know that there was a pretty big salary gap between the two, but if you had the salary, it probably made some sense to go to Ravens with everybody else on the Browns defense.
Yeah, you had a bunch of guys move up, and on the other side, obviously, those owning the Cleveland Browns defense moving down with the points allowed, even though technically against the special teams unit, points allowed are points allowed here. So something to keep an eye on here. Adam, we saw Russell Wilson and this Seahawks offense turn in another stellar outing. You had 38.2 points from Russell Wilson. You had Doug Baldwin go for 41.50. They're two parts of the Week 12 Sunday only perfect lineup. Are the Seahawks putting themselves in a position, real life football, to make a run here? Is this a team that all of a sudden, taking the Jimmy Graham injury out of it, who can piece together enough, especially in the NFC, to maybe make another run at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, maybe. I think from a fantasy perspective, though, we want to be careful not to go overboard. I think a lot of sharp people were on Russell Wilson. This week was an amazing spot, obviously. The Steelers are way, way, way better against the run than the pass. And that kind of funneled a lot of action towards Russell Wilson, where the Steelers are kind of a disaster in the secondary. And then the week before that, Russell Wilson got to pick on the 49ers, who really struggle back there as well. And then this week, they have to go to Minnesota for a road game, a much, much stiffer test. We saw what Xavier Rhodes and those guys were able to do to Julio Jones yesterday. So I'd be real careful about chasing Seattle as they go into Minnesota next week. Although Jimmy Graham stat line was not very robust this year, I think just his presence on the field was big for their offense and as they were kind of turning things around. So him being out would also be a concern for me, a guy that certainly draws attention. But yeah, in real life, I don't spend too much time on real life, to be honest. But now that I think about it, yeah, I see no reason why they can't go on a run. I mean, they certainly have the talent. I think they were maybe missing a little bit of motivation earlier in the year.
I think my wife would say the same thing about me, that I don't spend enough time on real life, but that's a different show altogether. I think Kitchen may be the one to talk to about that right now, but we can leave his segment for the second half when you're no longer around, Adam. I can appreciate your hesitation to be involved later on, but we can continue on here talking about the Week 12 that was. As you said before, happy Thanksgiving to everybody who is out there delayed, obviously belated, whatever you want to say. I spent 8.5 hours driving home from New Jersey to Massachusetts yesterday with a 5 and a 2-year-old in the car. We only left one of them on the side of the road, so that's a win for our family. And we continue on with the 5-year-old. The 2-year-old was dead weight, let's be honest. Kidding, of course. But what surprises from Week 12? What were out there for you? What did you see? And what maybe from a chalk perspective or from a matchup perspective failed in your eyes? And what surprised you on the other side?
Yeah, I thought Julio was just a stone lock this week. No Hankerson, no Devontae Freeman, and against the Minnesota secondary that certainly had some talent in Terrence Newman and Xavier Rhodes and Captain Marlin, but had really underperformed badly. And a lot of these guys, like the super high price guys, like I don't always trust that they can scheme the ball to their best players, especially when they're wide receivers. Like it scares me. Nuke Hopkins, scares me a little bit. The Julio doesn't scare me, or shouldn't, or didn't scare me, because I have so much faith in Kyle Shanahan just constantly getting his best players the ball. And given the spot that they were in, I thought that they would, kind of force feed it to Julio a ton more than they did. I mean, Julio had 5 catches on 7 targets. It's just, I really didn't understand only 7 targets for Julio, which really killed a lot of my lineups. And I think the fluke of the week is Marcus Wheaton, who is not a very good football player, has had so many chances in plus spots before, starters role, every snap role, and kind of flubbed every single one. I think people that go chasing after Marcus Wheaton are going to be left empty-handed going forward.
Now, Adam, that's an interesting question. I was listening to a couple of different radio programs on the drive-in tonight here to DraftKings, and the discussion came up about matchups for cornerbacks versus wide receivers and how in-depth you want to get there. And the discussion about Wheaton's matchup being a +1 and Brown's maybe being a down one. How far down that road do we need to go on a weekly basis with NFL? Can we get too lost in those sort of numbers and matchups and worrying about where somebody lines up? Or is that what we need to do from a daily fantasy perspective to really understand the best plays from a wide receiver perspective?
Yeah, I think that we do need to think about it. I mean, I like to think about where players are going to be, and more important to me than who they're going to be against is like where they're going to be used. So, I used TJ Yeldon yesterday, which in hindsight was probably a mistake. I mean, we knew that this guy was just extremely lightly used in the red zone. I believe he only had like 8 red zone touches on the Jaguars' previous 51 red zone snaps, which is just absolutely awful for a starting running back. When you have problems like that in the red zone, obviously scoring touchdowns is a huge part of fantasy. So I like to look at that stuff at least as much, if not more, than the matchups. But yeah, with certain corners, like, yeah, everybody knew that rostering Antonio Brown, we were taking the worst of it because he was going to see Richard Sherman. I think a lot of people thought that would depress ownership more than it did. I think Antonio Brown ended up 13% in the Millionaire Maker. I think a chance to take on some of that downside that you get with a bad matchup is when they're going to be 2 or 3 or 4% owned, is a chance to get on Antonio Brown then against Richard Sherman. So, yeah, I mean, there's certainly explanation for why DeAndre Hopkins had a rough game. I think he saw a ton of Delvin Breaux, and there's explanation for why Marcus Wheaton had a good game. He saw a lot of Kerry Williams, who's just a total disaster. So, yeah, I think we do need to go down that road, to make a long story short.
A little too late for a short story, but a long story is good as well here, as you explain some in-depth knowledge there. We appreciate that. Adam, hang with us. We're going to come back to you. We're going to go to our first guest here, taking part in the 600K Blitz, obviously on DraftKings.com. GreggyC03 is the username. Gregory Cavallo from Gilbertsville, PA is up first here on the DK Sweat Show. Greg, welcome in to the Sweat Show. Appreciate you coming on, and looks like you have a good sweat going on here with the Browns defense.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure to join you guys. Yeah, so I was feeling confident going into this one. Of course, this Ravens return for a touchdown has definitely added to the sweat tonight here. So we're in for a treat.
You have 212.64 points with the Browns D, as you said, and sort of the tough sledding there where the defense isn't even on the field when they give up the points. You have to yield back the shutout and hope for maybe some Baltimore turnovers. I don't know if you're aware, but Matt Schaub does tend to throw interceptions, so hopefully that comes your way in a little while. But your lineup here, you went with Eli Manning against Washington, which didn't end up hurting you as much as it could have, obviously with the 3 INTs, but still put up 20 points. So when you talk about a floor and a ceiling here, Eli firmly within his with 321 pass yards and 2 pass TDs, got the 300 pass yard bonus. But you really struck big with Peterson, Odell Beckham Jr., T.Y. Hilton at just 3.6% owned, Brandon Marshall, Julius Thomas, Brandon LaFell had a little bit of a down game for New England. But when you were constructing this lineup, were you looking to go contrarian? Were you looking to go off the board? What was your thinking process here as you constructed this lineup that has 212 points thus far?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix of probably contrarian and ceiling potential. One thing I noticed this week was there was a lot of like mid-tier potential stars, especially within the wide receiver listings. I'm a diehard Eagles fan, so it was hard for me to stomach an Eli Odell Beckham stack. But it wasn't looking good until that big Beckham catch towards the end of the game that really kind of boosted me up through the 1 o'clock games. But I was surprised to see with some of these ownership percentages such low ownership and some guys that can really find the red zone and are primary targets on their respective offenses.
You see the growth here from T.Y. Hilton with Hasselbeck in at quarterback. Seems like a great pick there. I think a lot of people stayed away from Hilton just because of that change, but Hasselbeck's a pro's pro. He knows how to get the ball to his playmakers and continually does that when he steps in. And the interesting one to me on the same level is Brandon Marshall. I think you're right. The ownership percentage there, I think a lot of people, for one reason or another, tend to go Decker because of the slight decrease in price, but you got great value out of Brandon Marshall at just 5.1% ownership.
Absolutely. And back to the Hilton point, I mean, I knew a lot of people would be off him with no luck, but Colts have had success with Hasselbeck under back. He's now, I believe, 4-0. They've been shaky with luck in there. So I like Hilton for his upside and for his low ownership prediction in terms of percentage.
So you saw the team jump up to first place. Then the punt return, you come back to third. A top 5 finish is still a good payout, still a good night from DraftKings here. But what are you pulling for now? A pick 6 early, or you're looking for a little bit of a sweat into the second half? How would this unfold if you had your way right now?
Yeah, so it's kind of tough because it's a ways down, but there are some Barnage and some Travis Benjamin ownership. So I do need some Brown scoring, just not to come from those two. I hope we can pick up a few turnovers here. When I say we, I mean me and the Rowdy Browns D tonight. So hopefully Cleveland is rocking.
So you're a fan of the dog pound this evening. I can appreciate that. I wonder, just from your viewpoint as a Eagles fan, from a quarterback perspective, ESPN will continually show Johnny Manziel. Most networks do because of the storyline here. Were you surprised to see McCown back out there as a football fan, or do you think this is what we'll see from the Browns the rest of the year?
I mean, I would expect this is potentially what we'll see from him. I know that the coach came out and said, this isn't a stop to your career. It's just a hurdle we'll have to come over. But, I mean, where Cleveland is now, it could go either way. I'm under the viewpoint that they're going to keep McCown under center until Manziel, if he ever will, get his act straight.
And we're watching Baltimore try to drive downfield. A lame duck pass over the middle from Schaub drops incomplete. Looks like you'll get a stop here on 4th. We'll see what Baltimore decides to do on this possession here on 4th and 5. But, Greg, great talking to you. Hoping and pulling for some turnovers here from the Baltimore Ravens offense. Potential one there. Falls aimlessly to the turf as we line up a kick here. We'll keep you on the line as we wait for this kick to go, whether through the uprights or short or wide. But nothing worse than sweating out punt returners and kickers. I have to be honest. This is a rough go when kickers and punt returns are the ones that are making your night, but a field goal that is up and good there for Baltimore. So you need Matt Schaub to put in Matt Schaub sort of work here. That's what you need, and we're pulling for you there, and we'll check back with you in a little bit. Best of luck the rest of the way, and thanks for coming on the DK Sweat Show.
Much appreciated, guys. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
That was Greg. He is in 3rd place in the 600K Blitz. $100,000 to first. He had hopped up to first, but fell back after the punt return and remains in 3rd with 212.64 points. We will move on to our next guest, and that is PMB Music. David Woodley from Brooklyn, New York. He is in the Millionaire Maker, as are 300,000 of his closest friends, trying to make it go here at the top prize. Welcome into the DK Sweat Show here on DraftKings TV. How is Brooklyn this evening?
It's surprisingly unseasonally warm here right now, so we're enjoying the nice weather.
Fantastic. Brooklyn, one of my favorite boroughs. I was born there, so I don't know it all that well, but a long time ago. Talk to me about entering the Millionaire Maker and what drew you to this contest and to put a lineup together. Have you been playing on DraftKings long?
Yeah, I've been playing off and on back in the day when before it was bought with Draft Street of all places, and then sort of merged into that. Typically, I do a couple of football contests throughout the year, or not throughout the year, each week, and then do some baseball and every once in a while hockey as well. And then the Millionaire. It's obviously fun. You throw $20 in, and you hope your lottery ticket hits.
So you have Travis Benjamin and Crockett Gilmore here. Were those the picks you went into the weekend with, or did you late swap off of them tonight?
No, I actually went into them with them. I have kind of a weird strategy. It's not the best, but I always like to have like at least one or two guys playing in either the Sunday night game or the Monday night game. I just wish we had some better quarterbacks to throw them the balls.
I think Cleveland and Baltimore fans agree that they wish they had better quarterbacks as well. But this is the game we have, and as we saw last week and in previous weeks, things can turn up as the second half turns around. It's interesting here with your lineup. You had Wilson, Doug Martin, Adrian Peterson, Doug Baldwin, which was a big ownership win for you there, 2.7% owned and put up 41.5 points. That was the highest return on the week, both from a value standpoint and from a point standpoint for the week. And then you had Odell, you had Travis Benjamin and Crockett, as we mentioned, Brandon Marshall in your flex, and the Vikings defense who put up 12. So a big point score there for you. Now, when you're constructing your lineup, you said it's not maybe the best way to go about using the Monday night players. I'm of the same. I really dislike sitting here with no one going. That's where I'm at this week. I have nobody going tonight. So I see my 0 PMR and I know I'm locked in my position. But are there any other idiosyncrasies to how you construct a lineup? A friend of mine who I work with pretty closely can't have non-descending prices for players in his lineup. A little OCD there where it has to be in price order. Anything from you over the course of playing on DraftKings that you've developed either as maybe a little bit of an OCD or maybe more as a good luck charm, something that you do more often than not that has become a little bit of a superstition for you?
No, that's about it. I mean, I try to load up. I try not to obviously load up too much in the heavy games. Again, it makes no strategic sense, I guess. But other than that, I like going with Seahawks players, and I have this weird theory on that because Daily Fantasy Sports is banned in Washington. I feel, especially in these guaranteed prize pools and these millionaire ones, you get a lot of people picking their favorite players. And
so you're looking for the hometown discount on ownership because the hometown players may not be as involved in the contest. That's an intriguing thing that I may have to steal from you. I may have to research that a little bit and see where that goes. But I want to ask you before we move on, your handle here, PMTB Music. Are you a musician? Are you playing there in Brooklyn? What do you have going on?
No, absolutely not. I'm not a musician. I'm not a musician at all. It's like an old bass. There's nothing very exciting about it. It was an old screen name that went back to, I feel like.
Is it AOL? Are we talking your instant messenger name here? Or are we going that?
Yeah. It was AOL Instant Messenger. I think even
for you kids out there.
Yeah,
AOL was no, just kidding.
Yeah, Now I feel very dated, but no, I mean definitely the Seattle. It worked last year a lot too. I mean, you just and Baldwin seems to be one of the more underrated receivers in football, where he can catch the ball, and Wilson trusts him. So
plus matchups past couple of weeks for Seattle talent on that roster, but an interesting way to look at roster construction there for you. And we'll keep an eye on your roster. You have a lot of PMR left, obviously, with Benjamin and Gilmore, and we'll see if either of them can help you move up the leaderboard and come to a big payday here as part of the Millionaire Maker. We appreciate the time. David, we hope that Brooklyn treats you well. Maybe get outside, get some of that unseasonably warm weather, and let this game settle in a little bit. I think they need to stretch their legs and find their footing to get these offenses going.
Yeah, and Benjamin just had another catch. I mean, we'll see what happens, but it should be it should be fun. So it's better than making nothing. So appreciate it.
It is better, and what better way to spend your Monday night? You wouldn't be watching this game otherwise, I'm sure. So, David Woodley out of Brooklyn, New York, best of luck the rest of the way tonight. I will check back in later if the fates come your way with these Browns and Baltimore players on your roster.
All right. Yeah, no, have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
We will continue on here in our Millionaire Maker rundown as we turn to Wakey, who is sitting in 12th place with the Browns defense. And we will check in now with somebody sweating a defense in this Baltimore v. Cleveland matchup. We may have had Wakey in the background last week in talking to Matt Smith, Sam E. Knoll. He joins us now here on the DK Sweat Show. And how is it to sweat the Cleveland Browns, first of all, and second of all, their defense in a contest on Monday night?
It's the worst. It really is. I mean, any defense is definitely the worst to sweat. And then not the best start with the Ravens getting that touchdown. So I have to start cheering for some Browns, not Barnage touchdowns coming in.
You will
definitely not a fun sweat, but that's what I have as a defensive left, and we'll see what happens.
When you came into this weekend, was it a price point for the Browns defense, or simply this matchup was too good to give up when facing a Baltimore team that has struggled all year on offense and also lost Joe Flacco to injury?
It was definitely a price point. I wasn't very high on the Browns defense. I did have a lot of entries, and I was pretty high on the Chiefs and the Bengals, who made up most of my defenses this week. And it just kind of happened. I needed to take the Browns on a couple so I could pay up for some more running backs, and kind of ended up on them a couple times. But we'll see. I mean, it's kind of a really good matchup, but they haven't played very well this year. So hopefully they can have a good night tonight.
Talking to Michael Wakefield, Wakey on DraftKings, sweating out this Browns defense, looking for some Browns scores to give Baltimore a reason to throw the ball and Schaub a reason to turn it over. Not that he's ever really needed reason in the past in his career, but hoping for a little bit of impetus here for Schaub to throw a little bit more. You are a multi-entry contestant here in the Millionaire Maker?
Yeah, I've been going at it pretty hard this year. I've been putting a lot of entries in. It's hard to win, that's for sure. But I've been trying to do my best, put as many entries as I can in. But it's definitely a lot of people say, oh, if you put a couple hundred entries in, you're definitely gonna to win. That's not the case. I mean, I've been doing 100 plus every week, and this is definitely gonna be probably my best finish so far this year. But it's definitely it's a hard contest to win for sure.
From a roster construction standpoint, I like to hear how different folks go about multi-enter, because it is a different beast altogether than focusing down on one lineup and trying to get the best lineup you have, trying to spread out plays and make sure you have ownership. Are you somebody who's tracking ownership of each player you have across multiple lineups? Or are you setting individual lineups that you think can do well on their own?
Yeah, I usually pick like 2 or 3 quarterbacks, and I've been doing 200 to 300 entries every week, and I usually do 2 to 3 quarterbacks, and then just kind of find a group of players I like, and then just kind of mix and match them on all that. Just kind of a really solid group of players.
Now, Mike, we know that you are also a Florida State fan, correct? Yeah. So how many Jameis Winston lineups are too many Jameis Winston lineups?
This week, more than one was too many. I think I had 30 or 40 this week. But last week, between me and Sam, we had a good percentage of that, 0.5%. And it
I think you were the percentage. I think you were the 0.5%.
It paid off. But
it did.
I can after last week, we can afford to do Jameis for the next couple of years, I think, profitably.
That's fair, and I think something to look forward to. He's, I think, exceeded expectations and probably had more people down on him for peripheral reasons than actual football reasons, but he showed the flair last week for what he can get done. What's been your favorite? Was last week your favorite Winston moment of the season from an NFL perspective?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely improved a lot. I think he just looked so bad in week 1, and Mariota looks so good. He kind of got like a really bad rap from that. But, the media kind of has one portrayal of him, and I don't think that's really the case on who he is. But, just his actions will just kind of speak louder than that. And we'll see. He's improved a lot. He's looked really good. And I kind of think you can start seeing is maybe he can be the best rookie quarterback in the past 10 years. I mean, Luck had a good rookie season, but if you look at Jameis's numbers, he's beating like all these other quarterbacks. So it's a fun debate to have for sure.
It's a great thing that we do as sports fans when we try to compare and contrast different draft picks right as they happen. And then 10 years later, see how right and or wrong we could have been. Of course, the first and foremost is Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. But there have been many over the years that when compared because of the high status of the quarterback position, they will try to compare them early and not get it right, and then have the opportunity later on for someone like Jameis Winston to come out on top as the best option. Last question for you. As you look towards tonight's game, who do you think is going to be the star of this contest? Who do you think is going to come out as the person or the player with the highest point total? Let's say outside the Cleveland Browns defense, because I think that's a little Hobart cheering there. But who do you think is going to be the star of the Monday Night Football tonight?
I was going to say Janoris Jenkins. I need a couple of pick six. The Florida Gator cornerback. I have to cheer for a Gator tonight. But I'm guessing probably, maybe Barnage, I guess. Sounds like he's going to be targeted pretty heavily, which would be pretty bad for me. But the guy's fun to watch. I mean, he's definitely a fun guy to watch. Hopefully we just get some kind of – I don't even know who the Ravens or the Browns like third receivers. Maybe Brian Hartline will have a good day. That would be kind of good for me.
That would be something new this season. Michael Wakefield, we appreciate the time. We'll check back in with you later on tonight here on the DK Sweat Show. Best of luck with this Cleveland Browns defense.
All right, thanks a lot.
Michael Wakefield, Wakey, 12th place currently in the Millionaire Maker, 23 spot 16 points. 23 spot 16. We will now bring in the host of the DK Sweat Show, whose seat I am currently keeping warm on the evening and for the past couple of weeks as he spends time at home with his family. David Kitchen here on the DK Sweat Show. David, how are you this evening? Happy Thanksgiving to you. We'll get into that discussion a little bit, but how are you?
You can just call me Wally Pip because you are doing an excellent job there. I am doing fine. What about these Florida State guys? You had Sammy Knoll and then Wakey. Those two are like two ticks on a hound, all the other Southern expressions. And you got them sweating back-to-back weeks. I'm glad something's good is going on at Florida State. He also talked about Janoris Jenkins. He actually didn't finish his career at Florida, so he can cheer for him because he got kicked off the team.
That's right.
As many college athletes do in Florida for Florida and Florida State and Miami.
I know nothing about that in the state of New Jersey, at least.
No. And he went to North Alabama. But, yeah, no, things are going great for me. Just enjoy hanging out with you guys and just – be a bystander, a fly on the wall, so to speak, with the Sweat Show.
So this game thus far, in general, has been a little bit of a slop fest. You have the Baltimore punt return for touchdown, a kick for 3 points as well. How tough is it to have the Cleveland Browns defense but have it brought down because of special teams?
Well, I am shocked. First of all, I am shocked that this game is not a shootout because when you think of Browns and Ravens, you think shootout. But no, I don't. I think everyone kind of expected this game. The issue is the reason why people were chosen is because really their prices and just the amount of touches that some of these guys were going to get. And like the Browns D, yeah, you chose them because they were 2K. And then all of a sudden, now they have four points. So I used Browns D in cash on DraftKings. And I also used Barnage. I did not use Buck Allen, though. I came off of him after talking with some of the guys on Sunday and, some of the DraftKings analysts. I got on to Tevin Coleman, which I'm not sure if there's going to be if that's a
support
good
group or Tevin Coleman support group maybe in the future for you.
Well, the thing is, all these low price, except for Spencer Ware, all these low price running backs just kind of finished in the same spot. You had Tevin Coleman, TJ Yeldon, Thomas Rawls. They all finished in that 12 to 14 point spot. And, definitely people, they were heavily owned. All three of those guys, heavily owned. And it looks like the move was to go Spencer Ware and Adrian Peterson. And then a bunch of wide receivers just went off this week.
We'll bring Adam Levitan back in now, too, as we can discuss which DK analyst got David off of Buck Allen. We heard Adam discussing before he expected Kitchen to have a lot of Buck Allen. Was it Adam, David, who got you, or was it someone else?
No, I'm not going to say whose name it was. I'm not going to say whose name it was, but it rhymes with Brew Brinkmeyer. But I will not say who actually was the person that did it.
Tevin also got. Tevin should have had more points. I believe he got a touchdown call back. Am I right, Kitchen?
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
And he had 112 rushing yards, had a real life good game, but just didn't get into the end zone. Did he also have a fumble for a loss?
Yeah. He had a 50-yard run, and then he does have an issue with fumbles. And a linebacker just kind of came out of nowhere. Kudos to that linebacker for a hustle play and popped the ball right out. So it's like on DraftKings, you only lose a point for a fumble. So you still got 4 points out of that. And, of course, you got the bonus. But his day could have been a lot better. And I don't know how many times I'm going to make the mistake of going with the Falcons players. Like the Falcons have just, other than weeks 1 through 3, the Falcons have pretty much screwed me more than any other bird in the NFL.
Speaking of birds, how was your Thanksgiving, David? It was good?
It was good. I mean, Thanksgiving is a day to give thanks and a day to eat. And those are two of the things that I'm actually good at. So I enjoyed it. And kind of a sad thing for this football season is that I think it was the most profitable football day that I've had this season. We've had all sorts of injuries, and go figure, the 3-game slate was the most profitable slate. I'm also going to have a profitable week this week. And maybe this is the week that things turn around. But Thursday was a great day.
So I wanted to bring Adam on here so we could discuss the topic you brought up on Twitter, David, so we could get right into that and make sure we have the topic ready. Adam, are you ready to discuss? You said you didn't want to talk about it, but so no. David, how were the sides at Thanksgiving? How is the dressing? How is all that?
Yes, it is called dressing, not stuffing. The dressing was great. We talked about, so DraftKings, there's this guy and his name is, I call him Wabi, but he's the guy behind the GOAT social media account, which is DraftKings. He does all of that stuff. Well, he or somebody, I'm just going to give him credit because he doesn't get enough credit as is, came up with this game to put together a DraftKings team using a main dish and a couple of sides. And it was a huge hit. People were into that more than they were football. And
the mac and cheese was a little underpriced.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could definitely get next year, we need to definitely tighten up some of the pricing. But I said, listen, I'll go lasagna as my main dish as long as I can get the 2 sides. And while some people thought that was really controversial, I thought that the most of the chubby / fat people that enjoy food came around to see it is all about the sides. Who cares about the turkey if you can't have cranberry sauce, which he listed as a side. Cranberry sauce, I don't think is a side; it's a condiment.
So you would list cranberry sauce along with mayo and ketchup. If we're listing out condiments, they're all part of the same family.
Yes.
And all right.
I will say that I said this on Wednesday, and we needed this on Wednesday. It was just a good pre-Thanksgiving competition. We need to take our minds off of things. And that night we ate with my family, and sure enough, my mom knows that we love our our cranberry sauce to be jellied and canned, like just the cheap cranberry sauce. But for some reason, every year she still makes this like homemade cranberry sauce. And this year she like one-upped it. And I'm going to give you a picture right now.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you can see that.
We can.
Okay. So that is like, it was like an actual dish. Like it was like a tart cranberry sauce dish that you could have with your turkey. So she proved me wrong. That might have been worth the $6K or whatever they had.
So wait, now is that a condiment or a side? We're crossing over.
That's why I said she might have proved me wrong. But the jelly cranberry sauce is usually a side.
So we have a 10-3 score here, Baltimore-Cleveland. So the Baltimore defenses fell back as well. May see some scoring open up here as Baltimore has driven down to the 12-yard line of Cleveland. So those Browns owners may see another hit here, at least from a field goal, if not from a touchdown. Dave, you were mentioning, thinking Cleveland's price point on defense was just too good to pass up, the matchup being what it was. Is that where we are at for the rest of the season, trying to find a cheap defense that we can justify in our lineups to at least give us some salary relief to get into some higher end wide receivers as we move on?
No, that is not where we're at. I've said it before. Daniel, can I call you Daniel?
You can. We're close enough.
Yeah. Every week is its own individual week. And just like yesterday, like it's not about like going cheap or going expensive. It's really just finding out what works best for your lineup. And people that paid for Bengals were rewarded. And every week is individual from the next week. So this week might be the week that you go cheap at defense. Next week might not be. Like people that hold on to this one theory and that cannot adjust, those are the people that still play VHS tapes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, there's something wrong with that. If you still are playing VHS tapes, there's something wrong with that.
There's only a certain way Goonies looks, and that's on VHS. But David, we have a score here from, I believe, Buck Allen, and we're going to bring Adam back in here because Adam had a fantastic reaction to the live action of DFS here. Allen with the TD. That hurts a little bit, Mr. Levitan?
Yeah, this is kind of what I was afraid of. Buck is so good in the pass game, but these Browns, like, they had three guys around them. They just missed the tackle. I mean, just totally brutal. So, Mr. Brew Brinkmeyer, whoever his name is not looking good now with Kevin over Buck.
We have a owner of Buck Allen, who is 21% owned in the Millionaire Maker, jumping up to 7th place. That's B Stewie 21. Now up to 7th place as they try to make a run. Still in first place, Keezy with 256.7 in first, and B Stewie moving up to 7th.
I can't see anything.
And E Cano 85 at 24.3 in 8th place, I believe, has the Baltimore defense. So we'll keep an eye on that. Expect much of the same as we move forward here, Adam. Buck Allen in the pass game and whoever else they can get involved.
Yeah, I mean, if you own McCown and Barnage now, you're definitely looking good. I mean, I believe it's 17-3 now. So, I think we're going to see a lot of McCown to Barnage at least coming up.
We will go to B Stewie shortly here and discuss his sweat as all of a sudden he jumps up to 7th place as discussed. And as Adam just said, the Barnage owners here may get an opportunity to see more pass plays as we move forward. Now, David, you were making a great point there about not sticking to one strategy week over week. And when you do that, you kind of get stuck in the sand and can't evolve. And maybe you play VHS tapes, perhaps. But if you're looking at this week 12 in hindsight, looking back at it, what do you see from what you thought was the strategy going in and what actually ended up happening? I know we can't be results oriented, but does anything stand out on something we may have missed or things we may have overlooked as we were getting ready for week 12?
Yeah, I think the optimal, I still think the optimal strategy, and now that Buck Allen is scoring, was to go cheap at running back, get at least 2 high-priced wide receivers, and then go, cheap to middle tight end. Delaney Walker was great. Heath Miller would have had a monster day. Got taken out injury. Vance McDonald, another guy who some people were expecting to have a decent game after having a good game before, got kind of lucky because Selleck went out with an injury early, but he finished with a great day as well. And then you had some of these just high ceiling wide receivers. And of course, if you use those guys with the Russell Wilson Baldwin stack, you're probably sitting up top. So that was probably the strategy. Russ, we talked about it on the matchups breakdown, was just a great play in a great game. So if you paired Russ with Baldwin as your receiver, and then went Peterson, 2 cheap running backs, and then Odell, and then a combination of Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Manny Sanders, any of these guys that had really good games yesterday, that was the optimal strategy, to pair those guys with the Bengals defense or another defense that went off.
Looks like Cleveland going to start sliding Johnson outside here. Duke Johnson in the slot to get some receptions from McCown, possibly, as they move down the field. Now, we will, during halftime, have a trivia contest going out on Twitter. We'll have 5 questions. I'll ask them here on the Sweat Show. You'll be able to answer them on Twitter to the DraftKings account. We'll send out instructions in a little while to keep you up to date on those. We will be back with Adam and David shortly to talk more about tonight's contest and more here on the DK Sweat Show. But for now, we go live to B Stewie 21, who has a sweat on his hands here with Various Allen, Buck Allen, 21% owned. He is up to 7th place with that touchdown reception. How are you this evening, as all of a sudden you jump up to 7th place with that TD score?
Loving that touchdown with Buck Allen.
The pass too, like
Brent Stewart out of the Millionaire Maker here. You have 27.2 points back of first place. Now, that is a tough hill to climb, but not out of the realm of possibility here with 16 points to go. First place and on through to 6th with no PMR going. And you have the luxury right now of not having a defense going. So you don't have to see the negative points. You don't have to see the scores as a negative. You want to see as many points put up on the board as possible.
No, exactly. Exactly.
Now, Brent, walking me through this lineup, if you can, we see a lot of the typical big names here of this week 12 with Russell Wilson, Adrian Peterson, Doug Baldwin, Odell Beckham Jr., Sammy Watkins, Delaney Walker. You went Tyler Eifert in the flex, and the Bengals defense, David Kitchen just discussing how those who paid up for the Bengals this week were rewarded for investing in Cincinnati. But going tight end and tight end at flex, was that a strategy you had coming into this week, or was that just how your lineup broke down and what matchups you like the best?
Well, that's just kind of how it broke down. I had like AP and Beckham were a couple guys that I tried to get in there, and then I just worked around it after that. And I mean, Eifert's been good, and I thought Walker had a decent matchup, so went for it.
With Russell Wilson, 3.3% owned, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense has been suspect at best this year, but I do think there's a bit of, what's the right word, history involved there, where people like to roster or not go against the Steelers defense because of what they once were. Was there something specific about that matchup for Wilson you liked, or everything just fell into place to go Wilson and Baldwin stack from Seattle?
Yeah, well, the Wilson Baldwin bang was definitely the move, and we had Pittsburgh not so great a couple weeks ago against Oakland, so I figured Seattle at home was a good call.
One of the few high-priced running backs, the only high-priced running back to really come through, was Adrian Peterson with a huge day. 2 rushing touchdowns, 158 yards, 29 receiving yards on 2 receptions, 35.7 points. When you get that sort of performance out of a higher-priced guy, is the rest gravy when it comes to someone like Buck Allen and the cheaper guys you have on your roster like Doug Baldwin?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, AP had a huge game. That was awesome. And everyone did awesome. So, I mean, I'm just lucky to be watching this game right now and be in the position I'm in.
I have to ask you, Brent, if you were not involved in a Millionaire Maker sweat, would you be watching Ravens Browns on Monday night in November?
Well, in my yearly fantasy, I don't have any Ravens or Browns, so no, I probably wouldn't be as into this game as I am right now.
So who do you have in yearly? How is that team doing as compared to what you potentially have going here tonight on DraftKings? Think we may have had a slight lag there from Brent. We'll see if we can get back to him in a little bit. In the meantime, we can bring it back here as we have a 17-3 score, 5:50 remaining here in the second quarter. 17-3 the score. Baltimore on top. Cleveland is driving now as Josh McCown and has started to string together some good completions here for the Browns. Last I saw, it was 9 for 9 since starting 2 of 8. We could bring back in David Kitchen and Adam Levitan to discuss this contest and others from the weekend. Again, to tease it out, during halftime, we'll have a ticket giveaway. We have 5 trivia questions to ask you, the viewers. We'll ask them here on the show. You'll answer them on Twitter, and we will award a ticket to who answers first the trivia question. They are based on DraftKings points throughout this season as a little bit of a tease there. The answer is not yet readily available other than on this sheet in front of me. So we will provide those as we move forward. Injury on the field in the Baltimore-Cleveland game, so we'll have a timeout there. But Adam, as we look at results from wide receivers and from expensive wide receivers, middle tier, and the cheaper ones from Baldwin to Landry to Marcus Wheaton up to Brandon Marshall, is this a position that is becoming more easily understandable, or are we going to see week over week, as David was talking before, each week is different, each week is going to be its own set of circumstances? Basically, can we learn something from this week moving forward for next week and on through the rest of the season from this wide receiver position?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any huge takeaways. I think that receivers have shown consistently to have the higher upside, the higher ceiling on a week-to-week basis. So, like, kind of a middling wide receiver like a Manny Sanders or even Brandon Marshall is probably better than middling, but guys like that can just go off for huge games. Whereas the mid-tier of wideouts, of running backs, guys like Yeldon and Doug Martin and those guys, it's harder for them to have the 35, 40-point games. So I've kind of been trying to make a concerted effort to put wide receiver in the flex as much as I can in my tournament lineups.
Now, is that a reflection of other positions being down or just what you're seeing from wide receiver? Or are you seeing enough separation between the positions there?
Yeah, no, I think it's rule change in the NFL. Like, Nick Foles averages under 200 yards per game passing in today's NFL, which is like almost impossible. Like even like the worst quarterbacks now go over 200 yards. They throw 25, 30 touchdowns in a season. I mean, just all the rules are so favored towards the passing game that it just seems like everybody is throwing at a higher rate and everybody's throwing with higher efficiency. So I definitely think that there's some reasons behind the wide receivers being so profitable.
Now, David, not necessarily a daily fantasy question, but it does have results in the contest we watch here. The refereeing this season has been a source of consternation across fandom for the NFL. What do you make of, one, maybe making these referees full-time and focusing them as a little bit more of understanding their own rules, and two, how it influences what results we do get from a season-long and from a daily fantasy perspective?
Well, is that a joke? These guys still aren't full time.
As far as I've known, they're unionized, but they're still not full time referees or officials for the NFL. I can look that up while you discuss.
That's a crime, man. Don't you think, Kitchen?
Like, I don't think it's a crime, but I think it's I think it's a disservice if it's true. But the thing is, like, when have fans been okay with referees' performance? Like, it doesn't matter, or it really doesn't matter, like, who the refs are. There's always going to be some sort of issue. You had the Hockey League incident way back when, like 5 or 6 years ago. You had the Golden Tate incident with Seattle You're always going to have like these incidents. I listened to a podcast today where really it was just nothing but conspiracy theories pretty much about how the NFL commissioner wanted New England to lose last night. So you're always going to get stuff with that. I don't know. Some people want to be referees. I like in college had this friend, and I was a referee at the time. And this friend ate, slept, everything to be a referee, and was a JV referee. And then now he's actually a referee in the NBA. And he's a year younger than me. So people that devote their lives to it, good for them. But man, what a thankless job.
I'm pretty sure they're not full-time. I know that it is a lot of guys who have full-time jobs that come on the weekends to do that work 16 or 17 times, depending on whether they go into the playoffs. I know that's been a large question mark for the NFL. We saw a TD there for the Browns. And, of course, it went from Josh McCown to Marlon Moore for Cleveland. A scramble and a TD pass for McCown, who is now up to 13 of 19 for 137 yards and 1 TD. So, Adam, those who went the cheaper route and went Josh McCown so far through the first half, though his team is down, are getting pretty decently rewarded by Josh McCown.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting pivot. We knew that Brian Hoyer would be the highest owned quarterback in the low priced range, and pivoting to McCown made a lot of sense. I mean, last time these teams met, I believe McCown had like 375 yards or 400 yards or something insane. So yeah, obviously game script setting up really well for McCown. It did not set up well for Hoyer, who was red hot out of the gate. I believe he hit like 11 out of his first 12 passes, through 2 touchdowns, and then the New Orleans offense just didn't show up, and that led to no more Brian Hoyer. So it looks like there's going to be a lot more McCown coming the rest of the way here.
As we pay attention to the Millionaire Maker, we still have in first place Keezy, 256 spot 7. B. Stewie in 7th place with 240 spot 9. And we will slowly see these defenses fall off the top 20 and beyond as we move forward here. If this game continues at the clip we're at, turnovers will change that story a little bit, but it does look like these offenses are going to have a little bit more to say about this contest than maybe we expected. We may see a little bit more offense as we move forward, but let's bring in another guest here on the DK Sweat Show. We'll get back to Adam and David momentarily as we talk to Zorbis 216, Paul Zorbis out of New City, New York, who is on Crockett Gilmore, I believe, tonight. Let me double check that. But welcome to the show here, Paul, and happy to have you on here, the DK Sweat Show on DraftKings TV. That is a very familiar sound, Paul. I am well aware as we deal with the crying child. I am well aware of that noise, and it actually just gave me a flashback. It's what David Kitchen's probably dealing with a little bit now in the crying child, for no reason other than being hungry or needing to sleep or needing a diaper change. We will go back to Adam and David now and discuss Babygate 2015 here on the DK Sweat Show. Dave, does that ring a bell?
Sounds awful.
Yeah. Adam said that he was going to do some sort of segment on breastfeeding, and that is, I don't
That's
think
a good segue.
I don't think it's really appropriate for the show. So we'll just kind of
David, have you talked to Adam yet about how that was inappropriate? I know you wanted to before the show started.
No, I didn't get a chance to.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and publicly reprimand him now. Like, that's just totally uncalled for and unprofessional.
As a father and a husband, I agree. I mean, let's be honest, Adam, that's out of line. I don't understand why we'd go there, but nonetheless.
I was going to say the best response to Kitchen's tweet was somebody wrote like, doing a DK Sweat Show or doing like a live webcast would be a huge no-no.
Sounds about right.
I was joking and said I was doing a segment of things not to do while your wife is breastfeeding. So we won't do that segment though, but it would have been a great segment.
I'm with you.
We'll save it if this game goes into overtime because any material is going to be material at that point.
Yeah, anything at that point will be game, and I can go along with you there, David. We'll leave Adam alone and let him drop off for that one. We'll bring Wiggins in for that one. He'll have plenty to.
Yeah, Adam will already be asleep by then, anyways.
Yeah, no, I have an 8-month-old. I'm well versed on the topic. I just didn't know that it was appropriate sweat again.
Well, we have the principle of sweat etiquette here, so I think he can write his own rules when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, what? Speaking of, what about this game? Like, we've scored 27 points in the first half. Like, I mean, that's pretty good for a Monday night game that's been cursed by games that haven't been scoring. And if you've got some of the guys in this game that are owned, like, you're feeling pretty good right now.
You have a good shot here for more offenses. Both these defenses are bad. We're well aware of both these defenses, just whether or not the offenses could get on track enough. But to your point, Dave, about Monday night and how it's been rough go of these quality or not quality games from a daily fantasy or even a real life perspective, this feels like the game that had to be good because it was so bad on paper, because there was no hope for it. Of course, it's going to be the one that provides the most interesting moves in the Millionaire Maker.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be interested to see kind of what happens here at the end of the game as you see more people with minutes remaining kind of creep up near the top 10. So maybe we're in line for a good finish and an ugly game. But this is exactly why fantasy sports and daily fantasy sports are relevant to football or to really any sport, is because it just engages anybody that is wanting to cheer on their fantasy team. So hashtag fantasy for all.
And I think 3 different guests have already said that tonight. I've asked them each, would they be watching the Browns Ravens if it wasn't for either daily fantasy or season-long fantasy? And it was a resounding no to that question. That is for sure. And I'm right there with them. I would not be tuned in tonight if not for sitting in this seat with the television right there and great company on the other side of this sweat show in Adam Levitan and David Kitchen here as DK analysts. David from Nashville. Adam, where are you located? I've never known.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
West Philadelphia, born and raised.
On the playgrounds is where you spent most of your days?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Virginia, even though I don't know what dressing is or any of those weird Southern like tick jokes that Kitchen likes to make. I don't know any of that, but I did grow up in Virginia.
It's not a tick joke. It's a saying. 2 ticks on a hound.
What part of Virginia, though, are we talking about here?
Yeah, right outside D.C.
That's
not real Virginia.
That's Yankee country. I mean, Come on. I can even say that. I'm from New Jersey. The fact of the matter is, tonight we can look back at Week 12 and look at the per dollar winners from week number 12. And a bunch of tight ends fill out the chart here, Adam, where you have Julius Thomas, Vance McDonald, Ryan Griffin, Scott Chandler, and Cameron Brate as some of our top performers on a points per 1K basis. Now, obviously, Brate and Chandler not putting up gigantic numbers here, but it shows what, 1, injuries can do, and 2, what value you can find on the cheaper end of tight end.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with Gronk. Like, Gronk is 8K, and then like there's viable tight ends that are 2,500 and 3K, and there's very, very, very viable tight ends at 5K. So I think a lot of sharp people have been using tight end in their flex for a while now, and it certainly pays dividends if you find the right tight ends.
Hey, Adam, what about your boy Antonio Gates? Are you not going to give him any credit?
What about him?
He had a good game yesterday, and he's like one of your favorite guys to hate on.
Yeah, things didn't go according to plan yesterday. Let's put it that way.
They didn't follow your game script is what I'm understanding there, but we will go to our next guest here on the DK Sweat Show. Adam and David, hold tight there. We bring in Brandon Zero N Hauser on DraftKings from Pennsylvania, as we were just discussing Adam from Philadelphia. We have Reading, Pennsylvania here, just was that, off Route 78 in Pennsylvania? And am I getting that right there, Brandon, as we bring you the DK Sweat Show?
Yeah.
So off 78, I'm well versed in that area of the world. You are currently sitting in fourth place in the play action. You have Buck Allen going, looking for more receptions, more TD receptions. How is your Monday night going thus far?
It's going good. I'm definitely sweating.
As you go through a contest like this and you have Buck Allen on Monday night in the Ravens-Browns game, what was the feeling coming into tonight?
Definitely nervous. Got a good feeling, though. Browns got the worst run D in the league, so I got a shot.
A shot is all you need coming into Monday night. Walk me through, if you don't mind, the construction of this lineup. Were there specific players that you were on to start the week as you were researching Thursday and Friday, or is this something that came together Sunday morning?
I actually changed the lineup about 5 minutes before kickoff on Sunday. I had Gurley in, but I wasn't liking the matchup with Cincinnati, so I just switched it around a little, and I liked Beckham against the Redskins. Gronk's always a good play, but just lucked into it 5 minutes before.
Well, I assume you were doing the research before. If you had a lineup already constructed, you have the sense of where you want to go. And I'm sure there is some trepidation walking in 5 minutes before and making changes of what could be on the players that you're swapping off of. But the results seem to bear some pretty good decisions on your point there. As you're watching, though, I've asked everybody thus far, would you be watching a Browns-Ravens game otherwise here on Monday night if it wasn't for DraftKings and Daily Fantasy Sports?
Definitely. I'm a big football fan. Ain't much to do on a Monday night, but it definitely adds a little intrigue to it.
And as we watch the Browns driving downfield here, you're just rooting for points at this point. You want to see as many points on the board so the Ravens keep throwing the ball and hoping that they get Buck Allen as involved as possible as the reception there for looked like Brian Hartline for the Browns as McCown continues to roll here in the second quarter, 1:22 to go. Browns operating what looks like the hurry-up offense, obviously, with 3 timeouts and down 17-10 as the clock rolls towards 1 minute remaining. As we go through your lineup and as we discuss, you had Odell Beckham, you talk about Buck Allen. Was there any one player that, looking back, you were on that you wish you had rostered, somebody that you stayed away from one reason or another, or were you pretty locked into this lineup? Once that whistle blew at 1 o'clock, you were pretty happy with who you had?
I was real nervous about Doug Baldwin. He's hurt me a bunch of times. Every time you think he's going to do something, he just lays an egg. So I was just glad I put him in, but I thought I was shooting myself in the foot, but I couldn't really afford to put anyone I liked in that slot, so I just rocked with him.
We continue to watch the Browns drive down the field here. Brandon, thanks for the time here on the DK Sweat Show. We'll leave you to this Ravens-Browns matchup, and as you poll for Buck Allen and some more offensive touchdowns on both sides, we wish you the best of luck.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Brandon Hauser, a.k.a. Brandon Zero N Hauser on DraftKings out of Pennsylvania, looking to make a move in his play action contest on DraftKings.com. As the Browns look to move towards the end zone here, we bring back in Adam Levitan and David Kitchen to discuss this final drive here and get ready for halftime. Again, at half, we'll have a little bit of a trivia contest for you guys out there watching tonight's show on Twitter, and we'll have available some tickets for giveaway for those who get the answers right. You heard, again, the first answer of the night where somebody said they'd be watching anyway because they were a big football fan. To be watching tonight's Monday night contest, an honest answer there as he pieces together. David, talking about sweat etiquette, talking about building lineups, talking about how to properly sweat out what you've done and what you like to do. How do you go about late changes right before kickoff? How do you personally? Is it something that you've had planned, or are you back in just before kickoff, messing with the lineup and hoping that you're making the right choices as kickoff is right around the corner?
No, I think that any any good player worth his salt, I don't know if that's another Southern analogy, Adam, or not, is going to take the incoming news, take reports coming out of some of the well-respected beat writers, and basically adjust to what they feel like is a proper adjustment. Also, one of my biggest things is if you do pivot off of your cash game lineup, at least use that cash game lineup in a small dollar entry GPP. So if you're going to pivot off, depending on what your bankroll is, let's say you're playing a couple $100 a week. If you're going to pivot off of this one lineup, at least keep it in a $3 GPP, so that in the chance that you're tinkering cost you big time in your cash games, you can still make up for it potentially in a tournament. But no, I don't think there's a science to tinkering, and some people say we don't tinker, but then other weeks you say, well, listen, I didn't tinker enough. But I'll let Adam talk about how he likes to tinker.
Adam?
Yeah.
How much do you like to tinker?
Yeah, I think that Dave hit it on the head. I don't make a change if I've done work all week to come up with a lineup. I don't make a change just because I don't feel like doing this right now. If there is a news item that comes out that makes me change something, I have no problem switching off my lineup. And he also hit on something I'm going to talk about on tomorrow's podcast, which is using GPP lineups as a hedge for your cash lineups. So for example, this week I regretfully went Hoyer and Nuke in my cash lineup, which I didn't feel great about, but I turned around and used 0 Hoyer and Nuke in my GPP lineups, which allowed me to have a really good week in GPP. So that was just kind of a hedge thing I was working on.
And where can folks find that podcast, the DFS Edge?
Yeah, the Google machine can take you there. And also we're on iTunes and we're on Stitcher. You just search the Daily Fantasy Football Edge.
And how did the 3-man work out for you this week?
Yeah, actually, so Ryan Noonan, it's actually a 4-man now because we, a few weeks ago, we started awarding a spot in the 3-man to the winner of the Listener League, the previous week's Listener League. And this past week it was Ryan Noonan, who actually contributes to DK Playbook. So Ryan Noonan had a sweat against Peter, was in first. CSU Ram was in first. But I think with all the scoring going on in this game that Noonan is probably past him by now. I haven't checked.
Fun fact, Noonan went to the All-Star Game event with Beep I'm a Jeep. Beep I'm a Jeep, I think he won a ticket to the All-Star contest in Cincy, and did a contest on Twitter to his followers, and I'm pretty sure that it was Noonan who won that and went to the All-Star Game with Beep I'm a Jeep.
Interesting.
Counting down to halftime here in the Browns-Ravens game. Looks like Browns will send out their kicker here for an attempt as time will wind down. Don't forget, at halftime, we'll have a trivia contest for you. Don't forget to use the hashtag DKTV with your answer. If you don't use the hashtag, you will not be eligible to win. We'll throw out the trivia here, and you will answer on Twitter. First one with the correct answer will win the ticket. Adam, you do not have to be involved in any sort of trivia tonight. You are absolved. David, you will defend your championship from last week against Andrew in the fourth quarter. We'll tease that out if you're still with us. If child duties do not come around for you this evening, we will have that in the fourth quarter tonight as we have 5 read between the lines coming up in the fourth. Talking about tinkering with lineups, changing, how important is it, and this is probably an easy answer for both of you, but how important is it to be up on news, not just Sunday morning, but Thursday through Sunday, Monday through Sunday? It seems like football is once a week, but if you are constantly aware of what's going on, Adam, you are in the best position come Sunday 5 minutes before to not make reactionary moves, but make moves that are solid based on movement you can make and swap in and out based on your 2x2s and your 3x3s.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel comfortable playing really any daily fantasy without having a understanding of the news, and that goes especially for NBA, but also for NFL. And obviously, not everybody has as much time, or as me and Dave do, to kind of be up on it. But I do write, shameless plug here, I do write news and notes every morning talking about like 4 or 5 of the most important things news-wise of the day, and that'll be on DK Playbook every morning around 10 o'clock in the morning. So just some important news things that I think people should be aware of going into the week. But yeah, just having an understanding of who the backups are and what's going to happen if X guy is ruled out. I can't imagine anything more important in a given week.
And that's why it's hard for me to really just go and pick up my phone like when I'm out and just create a team, because I need to be like at my workstation. I need to have like multiple monitors where I can see my feeds and everything else. And I think it's really important for people that are playing daily fantasy to have kind of like an accountability partner, not just like an accountability partner, but someone that you can help. So it's either like a group of people or a community, or just like a friend, maybe a league mate or season-long league. But basically, if you're going to miss something out on some news, have a friend that's going to text you like, hey, here's some news that could help you out. I think having some sort of community or group, or paying attention to the playbook and the chats that they have, like is something that is kind of a must-have if you want to do this on a more competitive level.
We will bring in Andrew Wiggins in a little bit. We'll say goodbye to Adam Levitan shortly. He's done a good job of dropping some shameless plugs in tonight, which he hasn't done in the past. So well done, Adam.
Ding.
That was well played. Both the I set you up for the podcast, but also the news and notes every day, and a great follow on Twitter as well. Very creative user handle there. Try to find him. I appreciate it because I have the same. Well, not the same handle. That'd be awkward. But
yeah, you guys are the worst with your creativity.
Yeah,
but it's all about the brand. It's just
yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you're creative. You've created the Soccer Dave brand.
Well, yeah, like I have a little bit of creativity. Like
once daily fantasy soccer goes huge, you're going to be like the Matthew Berry of daily fantasy soccer, thanks to your Twitter handle.
It's possible, but I mean, anything is better than your real name. Am I right? You guys have like the
2/3 vote. You're wrong.
Tidies of screen names right now,
and Whitey Tidies have never done me wrong. So what's so bad about that?
Nothing's bad with it. I could just see you, Strafford, eating a vanilla ice cream in your Whitey Tidies at night.
Best vanilla ice cream, by far the best ice cream out there.
Agreed.
Get out of here.
Agreed.
There it is. Kitchen, you're outvoted 2-3. 2-3, 2 out of 3. Whatever. Math was never my strong suit. So, Adam, thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to get to this trivia here. We'll talk to David about tonight's game, Thanksgiving, and we will stay away from the topic we put on the table before until overtime, which is now inevitable because of what was discussed earlier as being a topic on the table for overtime. Adam, we appreciate the time tonight. Yeah, great stuff. And as he said, the podcast, the write-ups on the playbook, and follow him on Twitter for some great stats as well throughout the week leading up to week 13 of the NFL season.
Yeah, I'm staying tuned just in case the aforementioned topic comes up. For ratings, I would just do it. That's just my opinion.
All right. Well, we'll keep it under advisement. We'll let the powers that be either throw a football at my face here in the room or not as that moves forward. But that's why David's done it tonight, because he's not here to deal with the physical implications.
Yeah, I bet I can just see one half of the room, like the fun side of the room, like laughing, and then the other side of the room.
It's like the old Arsenio Hall. The people over there are the people who do not want us talking about things not to do. Anyway, Adam, thank you so much. We'll talk to you a little bit during the week on the preview show. And of course, as said, the podcast is out there, the write-ups, all that more from Adam, who does a great job here on the Sweat Show, on the preview show, and throughout the DK playbook throughout the week. If you don't listen to the podcast between himself, Al, and CSU, they give out some great content every week that will help you with your research and help you with your lineup construction. Great to see them expanding that 3-man as well. And I know Ryan knew him fairly well from Twitter as well. So a good group of guys there going at it this week. And hopefully Ryan ends up taking that down. The first question here at halftime for you guys, remember, hashtag is DKTV. You need to use that to be eligible. And all of these questions revolve around DraftKings points this season. The first one: who had the most DK points in a single game for a quarterback? Again, first one to answer correctly with the hashtag DKTV. Who had the most DK points in a single game for a quarterback on the season? Single game this season. Who's had the most DK points in a single game this year on DraftKings? David, we keep you here as we get ready to bring on some more guests in a little bit to discuss tonight's contest and the sweat. We still have the same leader in the Millionaire Maker as we've had all night, and that is Keezy at 256, spot 7. Now, last week, Dave, we thought that Sammy Noel was far out in advance. Maybe we had a few options to catch up with him, but all of a sudden, the second half blew up, and we had a lot of movement and guys moving all around, and another FSU fan jumping into first place and running away with the contest on the night. We do have B. Stewie 21 at 241, spot 8, and that is 14 points back. Do you think we have a Millionaire Maker sweat, or do we have a sweat for some of these larger prizes from second on through 10?
I mean, that's the thing, is we don't know really if anyone chasing has two players because there's so many teams in this. But if you look at B. Stewie, I think that there definitely is a sweat down 15 with Buck Allen. Buck Allen got 12.3. If he gets a long run, if he gets and a touchdown, then you got 7 plus 6 plus a 3-point bonus. So, if a 70 yards and a touchdown would basically put this as B. Stewie's championship. But I want to know if there are any McCown teams. I doubt it because of just the game that Russell Wilson had. But we could see some Allen and Barnkowski, however you want to say it. But we could definitely see some teams sneak up if any of those guys have any big plays.
We did have David on before, PMTB Music, who has two guys going who moved up pretty well with Benjamin and Gilmore, who haven't really done much but has made a jump in the standings. So if you see Benjamin and Gilmore do some more here in the second half, maybe he makes a run. The second trivia question here on the DK Sweat Show here at halftime. Remember, hashtag DKTV. I'll read off all the answers at the end here. Who had the most DK points in a single game for a wide receiver on the season? Again, single game. Who had the most DK points in a single game for a wide receiver? Now, as we look at the potential sweats across, we have some qualifiers going on. We have the 600K blitz, the play action, and more. We have some more guests line up in a little bit to come on to talk qualifier, talk the $150,000 Thunderdome, and more, maybe some Millionaire Makers to get to as well. But Dave, as this show has gone on throughout the season, we've seen some big movement in the second half, yet it seems to move quickly in the third quarter. I haven't done any sort of research, but from your experience sitting in this chair and what you've seen, does it seem like scoring picks up in the third, or is that just completely anecdotal and hopeful on my part here during week 12 of the NFL season?
Oh, I think it's strictly anecdotal.
Fair enough. Fair.
I don't think there's any research that says
I'm going to keep it anecdotal and say that it's absolutely right then.
Yeah,
I will not do the research.
Just like someone told me, so I was listening to you and Levitan talking about like the flex spot. Someone told me that like 70% of winning teams this in the big GBPs have used a running back at flex. And I don't know if that's just like, just someone's making that stat up. But if true, I've always believed that running back's the way to go in cash games. But I'd like to kind of, if someone has the source on that, to tweet at me at Soccer Dave with that stat, because if that's true, then I don't know how big the sample size is, number one, and number two, I just go ahead and play all my cash game teams in the Millionaire Maker instead of worrying about GPPs.
The third trivia question here at halftime. Remember, hashtag DKTV. We'll read off all the answers here at the end of halftime. The third question out of 5, a ticket given out for each one here. who had the most DK points in a single game for a defense. So which defense had the single game most points on the season? Dave, your eyes lit up a little bit there. Was that out of knowing the answer or being astounded that that question was asked?
No, to be honest, I didn't even hear the question. I saw someone in chat put nice haircut, and I can only assume that they're talking about me and my thinning hair. So thank you, Matthew Cheney.
It's amazing to deal with. I did some video as doing now, and I did the look down at papers, and I watched myself back, and you have that moment where you finally see what's actually happening as compared to what you think is happening up there. It's not fun.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, Dan, your hairline is like mine. It's making a run for the back of your head. So
yep, straight through the middle or other side, I guess, whichever. Anyway, we will keep a rolling here with the trivia in a moment. But Dave, as you've gone through this show and you've interviewed so many people and talked to a wide variety of people going through Millionaire Maker sweats, qualifiers, and the smaller tournaments that are run on DraftKings, what stands out? You know, what as a host of this show has stood out the most as you've been hosting? We're on week 12, a few more weeks to go. And then the big one, the live event out in San Diego that you have and the LA live final. What's been those sort of characteristics or moments that stand out for you across the beginning of the DK Sweat Show here in 2015?
I think one of the things that stands out is just people's willingness to be on this show and share their experience with everybody watching, because some people just are not wired like that. Some people, they don't want anybody, they don't want the cameras on them, which is understandable. But if you're going to put yourself in a vulnerable spot where people can cheer with you, I know a lot of people that are actually people don't realize that some of these guests that we have on the show that we kind of cut to back and forth, they're on for the whole entire show. Like they've got a webcam on them and we can go to them at any point. And many of them actually in the YouTube chat, they participate in the chat. So I just think the sense of community and people's willingness to basically sweat with everybody else with the internet. And we've seen some really cool moments come out of that. We've seen some sad moments too, but hey, it happens. And everyone has just been really understanding. And it's been a really cool thing to have and for DraftKings to put on, because every week we kind of get this glimpse into these people whose lives are being affected by this hobby, by this passion, by this competitive thing that we all love called daily fantasy sports.
Last two trivia, completely agree, by the way. This has been an amazing experience on my end of just seeing how people go through watching these games and have the life-changing opportunity for some of this money that goes on. Trivia number 4, remember hashtag DKTV. Which team has the most DK points from the running back position this season? So that is which team has the most DK points from the running back position this season as a total? Hashtag DKTV. Last trivia question upcoming, and we'll bring on Andrew Wiggins to discuss this Monday night contest and week 12 of the NFL season, and look forward to week 13 and see who he's sweating tonight in the NBA as well. Always a good discussion with Andrew. Trivia question number 5 as we get ready for the third quarter here. Hashtag DKTV. So guys, thanks for some great answers here on Twitter. Keep them coming. Last one. Which team has allowed the most total team DK fantasy points this season? So again, team total. Which team has allowed the most total team DK fantasy points this season? So has allowed is the trivia question there. So we'll read off the answers after we bring in Andrew Wiggins to join us here on the DK Sweat Show tonight. Andrew, Dan, and David here. You know us well by this point in the season.
Hello from the other side. Woo!
How you doing?
That's all you have after that?
I mean, I just come to expect that type of stuff from David.
All right, fair. I can appreciate that. I'm proud of you, David. I think that was well done.
I must have called 1,000 times.
That didn't mean to go back to it. I was just saying I was proud.
Right.
We could have.
It's done.
All right. I don't trust you, but I know that's coming back again at some point. But Andrew, what do you make of tonight's contest? 17-13. We've seen the special teams play a part for both squads, but Baltimore especially downing a lot of the hopes for Cleveland defenses in the sweat tonight.
Yeah, I wish I had played more Gary Barnidge because he looks pretty good. I don't. When the Browns have been throwing the ball, they've been moving it. So
how did you not play Barnidge this week? Like,
no,
how?
I did.
Andrew, how?
No, trust me, I played Barnidge. I didn't play him on DraftKings actually, but I played him in other places, sites that may or may not exist. DraftKings, I went Tammy. He was $3K, and I needed the savings to get up to pay for Julio and Hopkins, of course.
Oh well.
But Barnidge, I liked him. He's looking good. And considering pretty much everyone I picked this week sucked, I would love to have him on my team right now.
That is some honest truth there. I am in a similar boat to you there, Andrew, of some certain amount of sucking going on from my squad, and I don't have anyone going tonight, so there's that. Quick trivia answers for you. Question 1 was quarterback. That was Breeze. Question 2 was wide receiver. That was Antonio Brown. Question 3 was the defense. That was the Arizona Cardinals. Question 4, which team has the most DK points from the running back position? Andrew, you have a guess there?
For the whole season?
Yep.
I don't know. What's the answer?
That would be the Eagles. And finally, the final question was whether or not the DK team total for fantasy points allowed, and that was the Saints defense. As we get the winners there for tickets using hashtag DKTV. Thanks for participating in that one. And honestly, guys, thanks for viewing every week here on the DK Sweat Show. The Browns with the ball. And Andrew, week 12, what stands out to you? What were things that on the course of watching these games that you saw and either surprised you or came through as things going into the week you thought would come to pass?
Yeah, pretty much everything surprised. I shouldn't say that, but a lot of stuff I got wrong. Some things you kind of get them right, like Hoyer. I mean, that offense scored a lot. It just got into a position. You were talking about this with Adam earlier. Like McCown set up to score a lot of points tonight, and just the way that game played out for Hoyer, even though the Saints defense was still really bad, it just the way the game flow worked out didn't really play in his hands. Same with Hopkins, so that wasn't good. I don't know. I thought it was a tough week. There were so many running backs that were really kind of indistinguishable, in my opinion. And I just kind of so happened – well, I mean, they all did kind of equally crappy, but I was looking at all those cheap guys, and maybe you're better off looking for someone like Adrian Peterson, who I didn't have on my team. So, it was just one of those weeks where maybe there's some tough decisions to be made, and then things kind of didn't really break my way.
A trivia question for anybody watching, and there's no ticket involved with this one, just for my fun. What song was David singing when we brought Andrew?
Oh, you gotta give him a ticket.
I do not have such powers.
I'll give him a ticket.
All right. David, the conch is yours. David will give them a ticket. Who was singing? Whoa, sorry. Who was singing? What song was David singing? Use hashtag DKTV there as well. We will continue on here talking about tonight's Monday Night Football game and the week that was, and looking forward to week 13 as injuries continue to mount. McCown doing a decent job tonight for Cleveland as Matt Schaub comes out 7 for 9, 86 yards and 1 TD. Dave, that's pretty decent for a guy that we expected to, well, I expected to at least have a few turnovers by the time the night ends. Not gigantic numbers, but at least he's controlling the football.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know. He's like the first last name username of daily fantasy football right now. Like he's the white undies, vanilla ice cream, just doing whatever, but nothing sexy.
I think there's a lot sexy about vanilla ice cream, and never mind. We are going to go to one of our guests here tonight. It is username Zerbis. Before we may have heard the cries of a young child.
That's my son.
Well, I have two young ones, a 5 and a 2-year-old. It sounded very familiar to me. Maybe threw me back a little bit to late nights of watching terrible sports infomercials for sports cards 2 years ago. But nonetheless, glad to have you join us now here on DKTV. the DraftKings Sweat
Glad
Show.
to be part.
And hope everybody's doing well there now. Everybody's fed and ready to rock and roll.
Fed and sleeping is good right now.
All right, fantastic. Welcome to the show, Paul. Glad to have you here. You have Crockett Gilmore going tonight. A slow start, but potential here in the second half as offenses pick up. What went into your lineup construction this week? Were there specific set of players that you built as a core, or was there a mix and match as you went through where price tags just fell into place?
Pretty much price tags fell into place, but I had a great feeling about Russell Wilson. I knew Russell Wilson was going to light it up this week. The rest, I mean, you expected AP to go off, Odell Beckham. Jeremy Maclin, that was a surprise, and Sammy Watkins, that was a big surprise too. Decent defenses. I mean, Crockett Gilmore, I expected a little bit better, but we'll see.
I appreciate, Paul, that I assume it's dark in the room for the sleeping child.
Yeah, I have the team.
We do not. I learned early in life, you do not sleep a waking child, no matter where they are in the house. You do everything possible to keep them asleep, because once they're awake,
absolutely,
that is a lot to deal with.
Absolutely.
They are a handful. We love them, of course, but they can be tough to deal with from time to time. But what brought you to DraftKings? Were you a season-long guy who made the transition, or did you see a different avenue to start playing daily fantasy sports?
Oh, I've been doing fantasy sports for a long time, but DraftKings I joined 2 years ago, and it's the best thing ever created, I swear. You draft a team every single week, different players. You watch all the games so closely, the stats, all that stuff. It's so exciting. I was telling my friends, just being in the top 60 out of 233,000 people, it's amazing in itself,
Absolutely, and fun to be here talking to you guys each week as we go through this Millionaire Maker Sweat and the sweats across all of the contests on DraftKings. You went with Martavis Bryant here, and he was 12.7% owned, came through with 19 points. Did you expect more out of that contest from Martavis Bryant?
A lot more. I expected him in the 30 mark. I don't know why he didn't. I mean, Marcus Whedon was a long shot too, but Brian was the guy to go because, Sherman was going to play Brown mostly.
And on the other side of this contest, we have what we'd been waiting for from Cleveland Brown defensive owners with a Matt Schaub pick six. So we will keep an eye on how that affects the standings here. But Matt Schaub giveth, and Matt Schaub giveth some more if you're a Cleveland Browns defensive fan here. But a pick six over the middle, defensive interception, a linebacker across the middle there, returned down the sideline for a TD. And we'll keep an eye again how this changes the standings. And we see Wakey make the jump back up into 7th place with 9 points now from the Browns defense, with plenty of time left for Matt Schaub to do Matt Schaub things and possibly turn it over again here. But more so from your perspective, Paul, Crockett Gilmore needs to be on the field to get some action here from the tight end spot. You started talking about Gilmore before. That was a price point play, or was that a specific play in this matchup?
I wanted Barnage, but I couldn't fit him into the salary cap for sure. And Gilmore, I figured because Schaub loved Owen Daniels back in the day. So I thought maybe he's going to lean on his tight end, but it's not the case so far.
Paul, we appreciate the time. We appreciate the sleeping child that you put down to sleep for us to come here on the DK Sweat Show. Hope that Crockett Gilmore turns it up a little bit here in the second half, and you can climb this leaderboard and take home a big prize to maybe start that college fund and kick things off in the right direction. And
absolutely
play some more on DraftKings in the future. Appreciate it. Best of luck as you move forward tonight here on the DraftKings Sweat Show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
That was Zorbis. It was Paul who sat in 70th place as we brought him on. The Browns defensive touchdown there, moving things around a great deal. As I said, Wakey moving up to 7th place, but Zorbis dropping down to 75th. As we said, he is looking for some love from Crockett Gilmore to bring in some points for him. We bring back on Wakey, who had a bit of a sweat from a negative perspective to start and end the first half as the Cleveland Browns defense wasn't doing much. And lo and behold, Matt Schaub is here. He made his presence felt, and he gave up the pick six, a good return there down the sideline.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit of a sweat back into it now. I was getting a little worried there. It's kind of going backwards from where I started for the day, but I think it's still going to be kind of hard to get first place. I'd probably need 2 more pick sixes, but maybe second place. Another pick six. I'm up into second, so make a little bit more of a sweat now in the second half.
You are back into 7th place with 242, spot 16. INT, a defensive touchdown, and 14 to 20 points allowed, 9 points for the Browns. What do you make of this contest? Do you see the Browns from here turning up the juice and running away with this one, or do you think we have a close contest the rest of the way?
I mean, it's kind of hard to be too inspired by the Browns defense. But the good news is they're back in front now. So, I mean, hopefully Baltimore will start passing a little bit more. Schaub hasn't looked very good when he had to throw it downfield. But when he's thrown the short passes, he's been pretty accurate, and they've been open. But hopefully he'll feel a little bit more pressure now. They're going to try to push a little bit. And we got a whole second half, so it'll definitely make it a little bit of fun sweat, for the second half, where I thought I was starting to look at NBA and just say, NFL's kind of over for the night, but brings a little bit more fun back into it now.
Who do you have present with you tonight? I heard a chuckle in the background there.
I'm with Sammy Knoll. We were sweating together, so I was here last week with him and figured we'd get together again. I need some good luck. He runs pretty good in these contests, so
2 ticks on a hound.
So I'm going to rub off a little bit on, some luck onto me for once.
So we wish you guys the best of luck. It was great having Matt on last week. Great to have you on this week to talk about your sweat, Mike. And we'll be back with you a little later on if Matt Schaub decides to be so giving again here on this drive.
All right, thanks a lot.
We continue on here as we talk to Mott's 81, Eddie Motts out of New Jersey. He is in first place in the 158th and 159th qualifier for the $15 million Fantasy Football World Championship out in San Diego, California. He sits at 237. And again, this is a 2-ticket giveaway here. So first and second place heading out to San Diego. We welcome in Eddie here on the DK Sweat Show. How are you tonight, Eddie? We are going to work on Eddie's audio here to bring him up as we get ready for tonight's sweat and run through it. And Eddie currently has 237 points. Wilson, Peterson, Yeldon, Beckham Jr., Vincent Jackson, Brandon Marshall, Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, and the Bengals defense. He sits at 237 as his final score. He is sweating out a couple of lineups behind him. Chipotle Addict has 226 and has the Browns defense and Gary Barnidge going. So Gary Barnidge and the Browns D. And back in 9th place is Flatboy 01. I must admit, week over week, reading these usernames sometimes gets a bit awkward. But Flatboy01 at 217, spot 84, and he is playing with the Ravens defense. So it looks like a spot is there for the taking here for our guest Eddie Motts as we await his audio to get fixed up here. Going to bring back in David Kitchen and Andrew Wiggins here to discuss the Matt Schaub pick six. Now, David, you talked about having the Browns defense in cash because of the price point, and you were rewarded with a Schaub interception for a score. Do you think he has more of those up his sleeve tonight, Dave?
I mean, it's certainly possible, but you never know what's going to happen. It is interesting that I think a lot of people. The Browns are 15% owned at minimum salary going up against this Baltimore team. So what's unfortunate is that kick return, which does count against you. Now, if you get a pick six, that does not count against you because it's not your defense or special teams. But if someone runs back a touchdown on special teams, then yeah, it does count against you. So other than that, though, they've been somewhat solid. But I know a lot of people have them and are rooting for them. And what about Wakey Wakey? Every time I just love saying Wakey Wakey because I've always said Wakey Wakey, it's time for eggs and bakey. And I've told him this every time I think I see him. I say that. But he and Sammy Knoll, I bet they're in Sammy Knoll's man cave.
It did look that way. It did look vaguely familiar in lighting and color from last week as we spent some good time with Matt Smith last week discussing his sweat. And that is a pretty dynamic duo from a DFS perspective.
Yeah, and they're probably like having wings and wiping off the wing sauce with like $100 bills. That's just kind of how I picture it. I can't confirm it.
I thought it would be Tim Tebow jerseys.
I'm pretty sure it's true. Yeah, and talking about their hate for the SEC. Oh, those SEC guys are so overrated. I guarantee you that's what they're saying right now.
Andrew, as we look back at week 12, we talked about what surprised you, what you thought came through as where you thought it would be. Do you trust Russell Wilson moving forward? Is this past 2 weeks enough, or were these too prime of matchups and too good of matchups to take too much out of him being back as a viable DFS quarterback?
I think they've been trending up lately. I played Russell a lot in tournaments just because people were off him, and he's maintained that upside the whole season. We just haven't really seen it. So I think there's some promising things to take from the performance. I do think losing Jimmy Graham for the season is a pretty decent hit. I think it's really unfortunate he won't be there for the final stretch here, because I was getting kind of excited what that offense could do. And it's not to say they can't still score points, but he was a big piece that they're not really going to be able to replace.
What do you make of the tight end position? I know you've joked many times here on the Sweat Show, on the preview show, about Barnage, about your usage thereof. Maybe not this week. We can forgive you for that. But what do you make of tight end moving forward? Do you see a top option? Is it Greg Olsen from here on out, who, based on matchup, would be the best play, meaning skill-wise? Or do you just see this as a wide-open position that will vary widely on week and price tag and matchup?
Yeah, I think generally week to week, you're probably going to want to look at the guys based on matchup, because Olsen's, you probably got to give him the nod, but I don't know. I mean, Eifert's been so good, and Barnage is kind of right there. And Barnage just had to play some of his games with Manziel, but the games where McCown has been under center, he's been excellent. So he's at least in the conversation. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler, don't you think? It's pretty wild to say that, but I think he has to be. So, it's kind of looking at those three guys, but I like to try and save and just play the matchup. I played Tammy this week because the splits with Hankerson out were pretty promising. And actually, he did okay for a 3K price tag. I think he came in at like 10 or 11 points, which is all you really need. But it wasn't enough to lift the rest of my team.
We see the Ravens driving downfield here, trying to put some more points on the board. That will obviously affect the Browns total here as we move forward and see what they can do to try to bring this game back to even or take the lead. I know that David has already cursed us with overtime here tonight, so I'm just going to settle in and see what score that is by. I'm assuming it's going to be like 38-38 with a kick with no time remaining. So we'll see if that comes to pass. I already got the special teams touchdown for the night, so I'll see what mojo I can create here. But as we go through week over week and we try to look back at what happened and look forward to the next week and take what we can, I think the great advice you guys give is taking each week as it comes. It's its own separate entity. The beauty of daily fantasy is you get to draft a new team each week. But how do you learn each week? As somebody who's watching the show who's trying to get into fantasy football for the first time, daily fantasy football, or has been new this year, how do you take what you did from week over week and learn from it and grow from it and become a better daily fantasy player? David, how do you become better at this sport as you move forward?
I think the biggest thing is just paying attention to trends and, just seeing kind of what some of the more successful players are doing. And the other thing is really just trusting the process. To say that a skilled player can't get better is maybe misleading, but when it comes to like cash games, single entry, I think is just trusting the process that kind of brought you to where you're at with being a skilled player. And I'm not really a big believer in switching things up too much. I think you use what kind of got you there, and you pay attention to the trends in the sport that are changing, but you don't really change your strategy, so to speak, with DFS. So if you're like in a cold streak, my advice is just like take a week off, and you might be overthinking it. That might definitely be a thing that you're doing.
Kamar Aiken with the touchdown for Baltimore. It is now 24-20. Baltimore on top of Cleveland. 44 total points in tonight's contest. Looks like we may have some more as this game continues on. Andrew, we are 5:30 to go in the third quarter. Aiken with 4 receptions, 37 yards, and a TD. Schaub on the night, 12 for 17, 139 yards, 2 TDs, 1 INT. McCown, 17 for 28, 194 yards, and 1 TD. Not a ton going on the ground for either squad, but we do have Barnage with 5 receptions, 77 yards, looking to get to that 100-yard bonus for owners of Barnage, and looking for some more scores. Wakey dropping from 7th down to 8th. B. Stewie moving back up to 7th with 242.1 points here in the Millionaire Maker. He has Buck Allen. Didn't do much on that last drive, but has 12.6 points on the night. 21% ownership percentage for Buck Allen. Andrew, you mentioned before the cheap running backs are sort of that middle tier of cheap running backs was really not that spectacular this week outside of Spencer Ware. You didn't have much movement or much difference in opinion there. Looks like we'll have much the same next week from the running back position. How do you start to differentiate? How do you make these choices? How do you make the right call at running back where volume will be there for all these guys? We're going to see these 3rd or 4th string running backs because of injury getting the opportunity. How do you make the differentiation, and how do you move forward with trying to construct the lineup with all these 2nd and 3rd string guys who may not have even been on your radar to start the year?
Yeah, well, part of the problem this week was that none of them were really in standout spots. Either they were in tough matchups, or they were on the road, or the team total was low, or like TJ Yeldon, who was at home with a nice team total, like he doesn't get any touches in the red zone. So everybody had a wart this week. I haven't looked really to next week yet, but my hope is that some of the running backs are in situations where the boxes that you want to check, are they at home? Do they have a team total that is reasonable? I mean, if you can get a team total like north of 23, 24, 25, you start to feel a lot better about that running back's chances. Are they up against a run defense that's weak? These are the types of things where sometimes you can find a guy where you can check all 3 of those boxes and the price is low, and you feel really good about the spot. And I didn't think any of the guys were really in that. They couldn't check all the boxes this week, and that was what made it so difficult. And the pricing was all very similar. So there just wasn't really a way. And, it's like we don't know much about these guys. You can read some stuff, but what do you know about Spencer Ware? Well, he wasn't good enough to be starting before this week, so there's that. But hopefully the matchups will be there, and that'll help differentiate people this week.
Some questions from Twitter to get to for both you and David here, Andrew. First one up is, who was your favorite player growing up? And that is from @IamJustCrystal. Who was your favorite player in the NFL, Andrew, growing up?
I didn't watch a ton of NFL when I was a kid. I was going to answer that question before you said NFL. I was going to say Ken Griffey Jr. because I was a big baseball guy when I was a kid and didn't watch a ton of NFL. So I'm just going to give you Griffey Jr. because he's the man.
He could have maybe played in the NFL. He's that good an athlete. Is that the segue I need here, David? Help me out.
I could give you some BS answer, but it would just be a lie. So Junior Griffey.
You should have gone with the Deion Bo Jackson segue into football, Dan.
That's true. You're right. Bo Jackson, it's his birthday too. That's well done.
For me, baseball, Sammy Sosa. NBA was, of course, MJ. And then football, football didn't really get big as far as pro. I was always into college, but I guess I really liked Reggie White growing up because he went to Tennessee, just a good guy there with the Packers. And then Steve McNair. And Aaron McNair was starting for the Titans around, I think I was a sophomore in high school. So I really enjoyed watching Aaron McNair on the sidelines.
If we're going baseball, I have to go Don Mattingly first and foremost. NBA was probably Patrick Ewing. And then football was Wayne Corbett, was long time my favorite player in the NFL.
Those are so Strafford answers. Like those, it just goes along with the theme of the show, Dan. It just goes along with what we've been talking about.
I have good taste. Is that what we've been talking about? That's
Yes.
what we've been talking about,
You
right?
have good taste in not sexy things.
My wife would disagree, David.
That is not what I'm saying. Don't you put words in my mouth.
Hey, I'm just.
Your wife is dang sexy.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second.
Wait. No, but I'm saying like
things to not discuss when you're. Oh, wait. Anyway, that's a different topic for a different time. Another Twitter question. Then we're going to get to one more of our guests from @Michelle Siegel. What was the most disappointing quote chalk unquote play/player last week, not counting injury? Start with you, David. So which was the most disappointing chalk, I'll say this past week, week 12 of the NFL season? What was the most disappointing chalk play for you of week 12?
I think it was either Julio or Nuke. Like, I think that either one of those guys would be the answer for 95% of people because luckily, like I was saying, my strategy was go 2 of the 3 wide receivers. So I had Odell Beckham on pretty much 100% of my teams, which is good. But then I also had either Julio or Hopkins on the other teams, and that was, well, not good.
Andrew, for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's those 2 guys. I would say Julio. I mean, the volume has been there for him. He's kind of almost been like a running back with how many targets he's been getting. And they weren't there this week. And when he did get the targets, he was covered pretty well. Xavier Rhodes for Minnesota has not been a good corner the entire season, but he showed up this week and he did a really nice job on Julio. And so Matt Ryan didn't really look his way, and the offense had some untimely turnovers, which unfortunately has been a little bit of a trend with them. But when you keep turning the ball over, that's going to hurt your volume. And it just wasn't there for Julio. So I thought he was in a really good spot, and he let me down.
You're talking about a team that scored 10 points against the Titans, that scored 20 points in a loss against the Bucks, that lost to the 49ers, and scored 10 points against the Vikings. Like, they had so much hype coming into the season, not just because of the hard knocks either.
Are you saying that maybe I shouldn't have had 3 offensive players from Falcons on my DraftKings team?
I'm saying that it's like, I have, and Hard Knocks is 2 years ago, not this year. That was Houston. But I have 2 players, I think, every week from this team. I did have Tammy, though, and Tammy was a big bust until like the last drive. He got
the points. And Coleman, who I was pretty big on this week, got pretty darn unlucky. He had a touchdown called back on questionable calls. So if he gets in the end zone there, and he had another play where he had a 45-yard run and had a dumb fumble, which, that's his fault. But in some of the times there, he maybe makes a little bit different break, and that's a 70-yard touchdown. So,
are there any smart fumbles?
Yeah, well, I mean,
you sounded like a football coach. You got a dumb fumble over here.
Sometimes that can't be avoided. I thought that one could have been avoided. He just didn't. He didn't notice the guy came up behind him and just popped it right out. But
that was a hustle play from the linebacker. But I love that. Popeye over here.
We are going to go to another contestant currently in first place in the Thunderdome, 00 Oreo 00. Joins us now, Jeffrey from LA, California, first in the Thunderdome. Currently, welcome to the DraftKings Sweat Show right here on DKTV. How are you this evening? Waiting on Jeffrey here. We'll have him up in a moment. We have him here now as we discuss the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns. Jeffrey, how are you tonight as we watch this Monday Night Football game?
We're doing great. It's nice out here. I have one of those lineups that doesn't have any active players right now, so
you are in ultimate fade mode as you try and watch this game and hope for you've gotten what you needed out of the defensive side where they've given up points and you've been able to fade back the defenses that may have been chasing you. But now you're looking at guys like Buck Allen and Barnridge and those guys who you need to fade as we move forward here on this contest. What went into well, and there you have it. And what went into your lineup construction this week? Was there a specific set of players that you centered on, or were you mixing and matching multiple lineups as you entered this contest?
The first thing I did is I tried to figure out who the chalk was. And this week that was Hoyer and Hopkins. So I crossed those off my list and I built from there. Unfortunately, I went to Julio Jones and Julio didn't do very well. But I got lucky with my tight end.
You got lucky with your tight end. As we pull up your lineup here, you had Julius Thomas pick up receiving touchdown, 116 receiving yards, 9 receptions. Got the bonus as well. You went with Bortles and Thomas there. Sean Drone with the big volume there for the running back out from San Francisco. Spencer Ware, Odell Beckham Jr., Julio Jones, Allen Robinson. The Jets defense, which put up 8 points, and Thomas Rawls. Now, you have 174 spot 66 points here. You have Max Dollery close on your tail here with Gary Barnridge still going with 2.4 points. One, what's it like watching a Monday Night Football game with the Ravens and the Browns as the fodder for your sweat? And further, what's it like sweating out these two teams as we watch this?
Definitely not fun. It felt good coming into the game, but Josh McCown has been pretty good. Gary Barnidge is getting some pretty nice yardage on his passes, so it's definitely not fun to watch. But I do have a couple other teams in other competitions with Barnidge and McCown, so I kind of want both.
So you have the sweat against yourself to a certain extent there, where you're rooting for multiple interests across different lineups, which can be tough. I think we've all been there for daily fantasy, whether you play one lineup or multiple lineups, trying to figure out the right mix and match of the right matchups. As McCown comes off the field after getting drilled to the ground. So we'll keep an eye on that. Shoulder planted into the ground. We all know the situation with the Browns' backup quarterbacks here. Johnny Manziel, third-string quarterback. We'll see what comes of if there is an injury there or not. But what you said, you tried to figure out who the chalk was, and then you faded them. Is that your straight-up GPP strategy from the start? You're looking to stay as far away from the highest-owned guys that you can?
You can't really do that with all the players. For example, I do have Julio Jones, who's around 50% owned. Odell Beckham Jr. is also 50% owned. But typically, I try to figure out which chalk plays I don't want to play and which ones I do want to play. In these types of competitions, you can't really just go completely off the board. You have to play some popular plays and mixed in with some just good tournament plays.
Yeah, you have a 30-team tournament here, so you have to be wary of missing out on one of those chalk plays who does go off while one of your lower-owned guys maybe struggles. So you have to mix and match there and really understand the game a little bit further in these smaller group plays. Now, as you piece together these multiple lineups, I know your background is in daily fantasy. I know you have the opportunity to use a variety of tools to track what you're doing and understand your ownership percentages and what you're doing from a lineup construction standpoint. But you were even talking about playing against yourself, sort of fading one guy in one lineup and having him somewhere else. Is that something you try to avoid overall, or is this just too big a slate and too big a number of tournaments that you need to have a variety of lineups, and sometimes you're just going to be fighting against that inner self when it comes to who you want to succeed more?
I tried not to think about that, but it is kind of tough when you're playing both cash games and GPPs at the same time. A lot of the time playing GPPs, you have to fade those cash game plays. So there is a tough balance there. A lot of the time it's very tempting just to throw your cash game lineup into GPP, but I haven't had the most success with that. And it also doesn't make very much sense from a game theory perspective.
Josh McCown on the sideline doing some warm-up tosses. We'll see what comes of that, if anything, as this game moves forward. I know you are well-known in the DFS community, but I need to ask, 00 Oreo 00, is that from a specific place as a username? Is that just something you typed in when you joined DraftKings? How'd that username come to pass?
I had it on another site, but Oreo is actually my dog's name. I mean, he's been pretty lucky for me so far, so keeping that username going forward for other things.
I don't know why, but I see it as double stuffed Oreos with the zeros on both sides. I don't know if that is just the way my brain works or what, but is that accurate to what I'm looking at here?
Those are just numbers.
Oh, come on. Help me out
Double
here.
zeros are my favorite numbers.
All right. Double zeros. I can appreciate. That was actually my old school AOL name had double zeros in it. So a little kinship.
My wife's bringing me my dog.
Oh, dogs are always
There you go.
welcome here on the DK Sweat Show.
This
So
is
that is
Oreo.
Oreo. That is a name that makes sense. I understand why that is Oreo. Oreo, welcome to the DK Sweat Show. Appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you letting your friend Jeffrey join us here on DK TV. Jeffrey, best of luck. You are going to keep a close eye on Barnridge as this moves forward, and we hope that you can fade this entire lineup down to a victory in the $150,000 Thunderdome on DraftKings.com.
Thanks.
That was Jeffrey 00 Oreo 00. I will continue to think of it as double stuffed Oreos, even though he said it was not. And that is how we will continue on here. It's 24-20 in this Baltimore-Cleveland game. 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. We'll bring back Adam and David. And David, I am going to give you the reins at the
Trouble. You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble?
Tell him why, Adam. Tell him why.
I got a little bit more hair than Adam.
You called Wiggins Adam, and you know that he gets really upset when you do that.
I think I'll survive.
I will bow down and say I apologize.
No, it's fine.
I can. No, it's not fine, David. It is not fine.
Okay, and I'm with you. I'm with you about double stuffed Oreo or double Oreo, because I actually I've met Jeffrey. He's like a really sharp guy, and I met him in the Bahamas when he was a contestant, and then he and I were doing lineups right beside each other at the in Miami that Andrew chose not to go to. But no, he's a great guy. And he's really a smart guy. So number one, I don't understand why his audio's not working. Wasn't working at first. Number two, why he had a camera cutting off like most of his face, because he's so smart and tech savvy. Like, I can understand it from Tommy G's friend Mott's 81. Like, I can understand how Tommy G's friend would have a little trouble with the audio. Tommy G, a good friend of the show. But no, have to give Jeffrey a little crap there, because also double zero Oreo, I think it was a way in the old school DFS to get ranked higher for head-to-heads, but I might be wrong on that.
Zeros at the top would make sense. Put you at alphabetical or numerical order up front. I can see the logic there. We're going to take a break here. We're going to come back with Andrew and David in a moment. We'll do read between the lines as we start the fourth quarter. 24-20, Baltimore leading Cleveland. We still have some track here on the Millionaire Maker. Keezy sits in first place, 256.7 still. B. Stewie is 243, spot 9 in fifth place, trying to track down that first place Millionaire Maker. We are going to toss it to Adam Kaufman from 98.5, the Sports Hub here in Boston, and CBS Sports. He is an NFL analyst with some viewpoints on this week in the NFL.
Time for my 5 takeaways from busy week 12 in the NFL. You have to begin last night. Patriots and Broncos, an exciting one in Denver, a controversial one for many reasons, but zeroing in on the Pats. Unbeaten, no more of that, no big deal. First loss of the year, 10-1. Wasn't about 19-0. It's about getting to the Super Bowl, being healthy enough to compete and win a second straight championship. And it was easy to wonder, would that be possible? This team in consecutive weeks has already lost Dion Lewis for the year, Julian Edelman for seemingly at least the rest of the regular season. Danny Amendola seems to be week to week, and Rob Gronkowski with that knee injury, writhing in pain down on the ground, carted off the field. You wondered, is he done? Is this another catastrophic blow that he has had so many times already in his career? Already a couple of season-ending injuries. Would this be another one? Fortunately, the reports that are out there, the answer to that question is no. Patriots fans, you can breathe easy right now. Gronkowski may not miss a single game, let alone a stretch of games. Again, it looked bad when he was out there, but no structural damage according to the reports that we have heard and seen, and this is great news, obviously, if you're a Patriots fan. That brings me to Brock Osweiler, of course, the victor in that game against the Patriots last night. And what is the future of Peyton Manning at this point in Denver? Because Osweiler not only 2-0 in place of Manning as a starter for this team as he recovers from any number of injuries, whether it's the shoulder or the rib or the foot, all of it. Osweiler has been cool, calm, composed, confident, poised, and didn't bow down to a Bill Belichick defense, didn't get intimidated going opposite Tom Brady on the other side. If Osweiler continues what he's doing over the course of the rest of the regular season, what do you do come the playoffs? Do you give Peyton Manning his job back even late in the regular campaign? I don't think so. It's entirely possible Peyton Manning is done in Denver, if not the NFL. Time obviously will tell, but a good night for Osweiler. Now, the Panthers, they played earlier back on Thursday, Thanksgiving, and improved to 11-0. So the only unbeaten team that remains in the NFL. And I'll tell you what, Cam Newton, if it's not Tom Brady, Cam Newton's NFL MVP. And right now, here in this moment, and I reserve the right to change my opinion with a handful of games left in the NFL season. Right now, my vote, even as a Patriots fan, by the way, I think has to go to Cam Newton. It's not that his numbers are close to Brady's. They're not. He's only thrown for upwards of about 2,500 yards. He's thrown for 20 touchdowns, far superior numbers for Brady, obviously, but he's also run for 7 touchdowns, more than 400 yards. And it's really, for me, it's more a cast of character. It's not that you should penalize Brady for being able to have a Rob Gronkowski, a Julian Edelman, a Deion Lewis, guys like that around him throughout the bulk of the year. But what does Cam Newton have to throw to? Greg Olsen, Ted Ginn Jr. Where would those guys rank on the Patriots' depth chart? It's laughable. And this team is, and it's two-sided. The defense has been great as well. It's not as though it's just Cam Newton, but this team is blowing out opponents almost with regularity. One of the top-scoring teams in the NFL. Cam Newton, a dynamic, versatile part of that. Without him, I don't even think this is a playoff team, let alone a team that could flirt with 16-0. Play is down in the NFL, and the best example of that is the AFC South. Two miserable teams throughout much of the year, written off, the Colts and Texans. If the season ended today, both of those teams would be playoff teams. Think about that. That is absolutely wild. I recognize they've caught fire. Indy with 3 wins, Matt Hasselbeck, 40-year-old Matt Hasselbeck, 4-0 as a starter in place of Andrew Luck this year. The Texans finally have learned to play defense again. They've won their last 4 games. But the fact that those two teams could represent a third of the AFC playoff teams this year speaks to really what the rest of the NFL has looked like. And to that same theme, by the way, the NFL East, my final point, absolutely embarrassing. The Redskins end up beating the Giants. Tom Coughlin says that his team, the Giants, sleptwalk through that game. Very clear if you watched any of it. This Redskins team, another bad team. The Giants, they played the Patriots well earlier this year, but obviously not a good team. They share the NFC East lead at 5 wins apiece. 5. So this is going to be another year, you can guarantee it, because neither of these teams is going to run the table. This is going to be another year where you have a team with a double-digit victory season winning a division. Now, last year, the NFC South, it was the Panthers winning at 7-8-1. Now, I don't know if that means one of these NFC East teams is going to go on and be undefeated or flirt with being undefeated next year. I highly doubt it. But and it certainly wouldn't be the Redskins or Giants. Maybe the Cowboys if Tony Romo's healthy and Des Bryant has a breakout year. Who knows? But it is such a mediocre division, an embarrassing division to this point in the year. Nevertheless, though, 5-6, 5-6, good enough to lead a division. Not good, NFL.
Welcome back to the DraftKings Sweat Show on DKTV. Dan Strafford. Thanks for Adam Kaufman, 98.5, the Sports Hub, and CBS Sports Radio NFL analyst. We bring back Andrew Wiggins and David Kitchen. Made sure I got both those names right this time through, as I wanted to confirm both their identities, and they have been verified here on the DK Sweat Show. Dave, what you eat?
Spicy Buffalo Wheat Thins, where you can get 100% whole grain and 18 grams of whole grain in one serving.
It's a lot of whole grain.
That's not what she said.
Healthy snacks. Good work.
That's dad life now. 2 kids. Got to get healthy, right?
Yep.
That's what they say. Anyway, we have a Ravens Browns game here that is still ongoing. Schaub trying for the QB sneak to keep this drive alive for the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll keep an eye on the Millionaire Maker. As we said before the break, we have B. Stewie 21 at 243 spot 9. And he has Buck Allen going. So looking for some more out of the Ravens here as this drive continues. First and 10 to go, 13:23 in the fourth quarter remaining. 24-20 Baltimore on top. Andrew, assume with the lead, we'll see a little bit more of Buck Allen running the ball, most likely as Harbaugh tries to sit on this lead a little bit.
Yeah, I would think so. I got to say, I got a lineup leaking up towards the top of the Million Maker. It's in 481st place. So
Who's it got?
I got Buck Allen and I got Buck and Barnage left.
Are you kidding me?
210 points for Makasupa.
Yeah, I've entered into the part of the standings where other people can now see my team, the top 500. So
welcome to the big time, Andrew Wiggins.
Thank you.
And there is the, what would you say, leaking into the top of the leaderboard? Is that your description of your team at the present moment?
Yeah, just kind of slowly trickling up.
No, it's not. You don't trickle up. It's creeping into it. You don't.
Yeah, you might be
up.
right. You might be right.
Get out of here,
I'm a little
guy.
tired.
Little tired. We can appreciate that here. That is for sure. As we have 13 minutes to go in this contest, a slow-moving affair here in the second half. We look towards the perfect lineup here in week number 12, and it had Russell Wilson, Adrian Peterson, C.J. Anderson, Doug Baldwin, Jarvis Landry, Marcus Wheaton, Julius Thomas, Brandon Marshall, and the Bengals. Andrew, is the Broncos offense solved? Is Brock Osweiler the answer? And will this run game continue to flourish with him under center?
Yeah, I don't know. Solved. I don't know if that's the way to put it, but they're better than they were. And the run game's been pretty effective. Demaryius Thomas didn't look too solved. But I don't think that was really completely his fault. They did a pretty good job on him. And he had a few balls that maybe he normally catches. A tough game for him. I think seeing the running game really be successful is a good sign for everyone, Demaryius included.
We now have time for Read Between the Lines as David Kitchen tries to defend his title from last week. We need a writing implement and a pad or piece of paper.
What about a writing instrument?
No, not allowed.
Got one.
All right. We will start with. Are you ready, Andrew?
I'm ready.
All right. 1 receiving touchdown, 142 receiving yards, 9 receptions, and the bonus for 100+ receiving yards.
Oh, the guy that stole my money.
32.2 DraftKings points, 1 receiving touchdown, 142 receiving yards, 9 receptions, and the 100-yard receiving bonus, 32.2 DraftKings points. Andrew, we go to you first. Your answer is?
That's ODB, and I'm not talking about old dirty bastard.
Whoa! Bleep that guy.
Is that a
Bleep
swear word?
that guy.
That's an acceptable swear word on network television, I believe.
We have Beckham and Beckham. We are 1-1 to start off here. Andrew, you are on the board this week. We appreciate you coming prepared. As we go to number 2, 2 receiving touchdowns, 95 receiving yards on 6 receptions, 27.5 DraftKings points. 2 receiving touchdowns, 95 receiving yards, and 6 receptions, 27.5 DraftKings points. You both have an answer written down. And David, you're up first. Antonio Gates is incorrect.
No. I'm not sure if this one's right, but AJ Green?
AJ Green is incorrect as well. The answer is T.Y. Hilton.
Oh,
no one pays
Get out of here.
Colts offense.
Yeah, get out of here.
He was part of many a lineup in the top standings of the Millionaire Maker. We move on to our third as we remain 1-1 in the standings here. 3 receiving touchdowns, 145 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and the 100-yard receiving bonus. 41.5 DraftKings points. 3 receiving touchdowns, 145 receiving yards, 6 receptions, and 41.5 DraftKings points. Andrew, you're up first with this answer.
No, I wrote down the wrong answer.
We'll be the judge of that.
Well, I already crossed it out. It's wrong. It's not
Oh.
Calvin Johnson.
Okay, what is your answer?
I don't have an answer. I can't think of who it is.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give me somebody.
Oh, Baldwin.
Well,
Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin is correct. David goes up 2-1 through 3 questions, and the dancing has begun.
See, it's like I can't. My brain can't comprehend Baldwin having 3 touchdowns.
If it makes you feel any better, there are a lot of inferior brains out there who do the same thing.
He's on my team though. That's now snuck up to 384. So
look at you, guy! Look at you.
So something's going on. Buck Allen's getting some yards.
He has a couple of receptions on this drive for the Ravens. I believe Kamar Aiken with the last reception from Matt Schaub. Number 4, 88 receiving yards on 7 receptions, 1 rush touchdown, 29 rushing yards, 24.7 DraftKings points.
Can you repeat that?
I shall. 88 receiving yards on 7 receptions, 1 rushing TD, 29 rush yards, 24.7 DraftKings points. David, you'll be up first when you are ready to share your answer.
These are tricky. You're asking us some tough questions.
And the answer David has is West. That is incorrect.
Yeah, that's not correct.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't, but I had to write down something.
Andrew, your answer is?
Wait, how many? Did you say receiving yards or rushing yards for the big yardage?
88 receiving yards on 7 receptions.
All right, I'm going with Cecil Shorts.
The answer is incorrect. 24.7 DraftKings points for D'Angelo Williams.
Oh, man.
So the score is 2-1. As we head to the final question here. David's so confident that he is going to win. He's already eating. He's already snacking as we move forward.
The winner's
That's not saying I'm confident. That's saying I'm hungry.
That's saying I'm living life. That is what that's saying. 1 passing touchdown, 302 passing yards, the 300-yard bonus, 1 rushing touchdown with 1 rush yard, 25.18 DraftKings points. 1 passing touchdown, 302 passing yards, the 300-yard bonus, 1 rush TD on 1 rushing yard, 25.18 DraftKings points. Andrew, you were up first. You look slightly
I don't know. I think
confused.
I don't think this is right, but Carson Palmer?
That is the incorrect answer.
Yeah, I actually had Palmer written down, but it was a 7-yard rushing touchdown.
Right, that was that. I knew it was more than 1
So
yard. I'm thinking maybe he had some negative rushing.
That's
yards.
why I crossed it out. Is it Cousins?
It is Kirk Cousins. David Kitchen with a 3-1 victory. He holds on to the title. You already follow me on Twitter, so that can't be a prize. Oh, but we get a dance. We get a David Kitchen dance, and I feel much better for that now.
I'm sure you do, fella.
It's demoralizing just getting beat down in this game.
That's like a chocolate chip cookie dough dance. Like that has a lot going on there.
Redeem yourself, Andrew. Because of Aiken scoring the touchdown, here's a question for you. What famous movie did they say, "Are you Aiken? Yep, yep, yep. For some bacon? Yep, yep, yep. He's a big pig. Yep, yep. You can be a big pig too. Hooey."
I don't know.
Strafford, do you know that?
I can picture it. I can't. I don't have it.
Well, someone needs to tweet in the answer. Mention me at Soccer Dave and use hashtag DKTV, and we'll give you a lot of stuff. And by a lot of stuff, I mean 1 Millionaire Maker contest ticket.
All right. It's a good deal.
I can't come up with it. I can picture it.
Are you aching? Yep, yep, yep. For some bacon? Yep, yep, yep. He's a big pig. Yep, yep. You can be a big pig too. Whee!
Whee!
It's not Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but I know there's a pig scene there with The Ice Cream Bowl, but it's not that movie. So we will wait for someone to answer on Twitter, mentioning at Soccer Dave. As he said, he's throwing out these tickets. It's a wild, wild west here. He's dealing hot, looking for pocket aces.
I just won. I got my spicy buffalo flavor, whole grains going on. I got my friends Andrew and Dan and Wakey Wakey. I mean, what is life right now?
Wakey Wakey is one of the best names. I enjoy that name very much as well.
It's the best to say.
We are here in the fourth quarter. Cleveland and Baltimore are in a very close contest that will yield some results here in the fourth quarter, one way or another, whether from defenses or offenses, as Schaub has to try to keep the lead of 27-20. We now have a score that is much more conducive to a tie as we move forward here in the fourth quarter with Baltimore picking up the field goal. Cleveland defense is again taking a hit there and moving back down. But not too much, as that this will settle down from a points perspective to simply be turnovers that help the Cleveland defense. They have 8 points, 241 spot 1-6 for Wakey Wakey. He is in 8th place. B. Stewie 21 in 5th place with 246, and he still has Buck Allen going. And of course, we have to watch out for that dark horse tonight, Makasupa, back there in 388th, trying to make a charge up the leaderboard as we discuss.
Andrew, how much are you winning right now with that entry?
Oh, I'm losing.
No, but like, how much is? Gosh, that was such a bad answer. How much is that entry winning right now?
Probably like $10. 388 pays out 500. So not bad.
The Jazz are going nuts, by the way.
Yep.
So I'd like to discuss that with Andrew real quick, though. Alec Johnson at AlecJ24. He mentioned me and used hashtag DKTV. Lion King. Timon and Pumbaa. They were the original Wakey Wakey and Sammy Knoll.
Very nice. It's a great movie.
It is.
Great soundtrack, too. Hakuna Matata.
What a wonderful phrase.
I would pay a lot of money to see that continue. But talking about the Warriors here, we have a possible first loss on the horizon here, or do we see the Warriors reel off some big scores here? Well, all of a sudden it's tied. There it is.
All you need to know is Death Squad is coming in and will just wreak havoc. 6.5 minutes left, though. Tied game. I mean, the question is, how much do the Warriors win by, Andrew?
6.
I'm going to say 8.
That's fair.
They win going away by 11.
Well, now you're just being ridiculous.
Well, it's the price is right at this point. I'm just going to go for the biggest possible win, and if I don't, I can just toss it up to trying to be extravagant here with my answer. As we look at the Millionaire Maker, not much development, and we're sort of settling into focusing on Buck Allen and Barnridge as this game continues on. 27-20 the score, 8:29 to go. We have seen David Kitchen defend his read between the lines title, and we've had the trivia questions during halftime, and David handing out 2 more Millionaire Maker tickets here for trivia unto himself. We will continue to read your tweets here, your Twitter questions, and here is one from Alex J24.
He just won the ticket. This guy is everywhere.
There you go. Well, things to know for a different time, but how much confidence should people have in backups when they get the starting job due to injuries? They're backups for a reason, right? So, Andrew, the question then becomes, the NFL is such a volume-centric sport. When you insert someone like Ware out in Kansas City or Buck Allen here tonight for the Baltimore Ravens, each individual team and each individual player has its own set of circumstances, right? You can't just say all backups are X and all starters are Y, especially for an offensive backfield like Kansas City that just seems to produce rushers every week, no matter who's in the backfield.
Yeah, I think the pedigree matters to some extent, but generally you want to look at some of those things we talked about earlier. You want to look at, are they home or away? Do they have a healthy team total, meaning is their team projected to score a lot of points? Is the matchup good or bad? And what type of volume are they going to be getting? And that, like you said with Kansas City, that's a great thing about Kansas City is they run the ball a ton. And then in particular, when they're in the red zone, they're running the ball a ton. And they also do a lot of dump-off passes. It's just a running back is the cornerstone of that offense. And I hit on another guy a little bit earlier, TJ Yeldon. Like, I felt like he was going to get the touches and he was at home in a good matchup, et cetera. But once they get to the red zone, that team doesn't run the ball. They just throw it. And that really decreases his chances of scoring a touchdown, which is a big problem. So you're just looking for all those things to line up, and every running back's in a different situation with a different pedigree and such. So you want to look at all those things. But I think the volume and the matchup are probably going to be the most important things to look at.
We did see Austin Davis in at quarterback here for the Browns on that last offensive set, and quickly the Browns punting back to Baltimore. So we'll see Buck Allen back out on the field. But Andrew, Barnage owners can't be happy about seeing Austin Davis in there with the potential for points to be put up on the board down by 7. When you do, for better or for worse, have Johnny Manziel on the bench. Off-field stuff aside, we're now seeing all of that come to a head here with McCown having to go to the bench with what seemed like a shoulder injury.
Yeah, I think Johnny Manziel is done there. I think they just what I read it wasn't so much he was out partying as he came back in and lied about it. So that's kind of a problem. And so I think that I'd be very surprised if he sees the field again this year. So Austin Davis, who I believe saw the field a little bit for St. Louis maybe a year or two ago, is that correct?
That is
he
correct.
was the opening day. I think it was the opening day quarterback for the Rams last year. Which
that was Sean Hill.
Oh yeah, it was Sean Hill. He came in after Sean.
Things you learn from DFS, playing those wing quarterbacks.
Yeah, people.
Sean Hill got benched / hurt at halftime. Austin Davis enters. The rest is history.
Yep.
This is not good for Barnage owners.
Yeah, Barnage is the GOAT when McCown is in.
Right.
When McCown's not in, he is not the GOAT. So even if you say, well, maybe they'll check down to Barnage, he's not at his full potential with them. But then again, you've got presumably the run game of Baltimore going to go off. So if you do have Barnage and you do have Buck Allen, who just got 7 yards, then you have the recipe for what you want. Like you didn't really maybe expect this, or maybe you did, but this is what you want. This is the exact game flow that you want as far as running the ball with your running back and the other team playing catch up, hopefully going to your tight end.
Buck Allen with another run there. We have B. Stewie 21 with Allen at about 247 points here in the Millionaire Maker. In first place is Keezy. He's been there all night. He is now with us tonight here on the DK Sweat Show on DraftKings TV. Kevin Delaney out of Maryland. You've been sitting watching this Monday night game, having to pretty much fade gigantic performances from Barnage and from Buck Allen, and we are 7 minutes away here from the possibility of that happening. We do have Buck Allen driving right now with the Ravens, but what's it been like watching this Monday night game with no one going, having to hope for everything to stay in check?
Yeah, I mean, that's the worst when I have no one going. It's like a waiting game from here. Kind of sucked that Schaub just got out. I mean, not Schaub. McCown, just because, I felt like he was moving the Cleveland offense pretty well. Really needed them to stay on the field. But, I mean, it's a waiting game now. Buck Allen's played, really well tonight. The 10 points, 7 minutes to $1 million. So we'll see what happens.
And the beauty of the NFL is how slow those 6 minutes can go in game time.
Very slow with 3 timeouts. So
and as they always remind us, the 2-minute warning in there as well. So we can keep you here for a little while and talk through this lineup of yours, Kevin. First of all, thanks for joining us. I know we talk to everybody each week. What's the emotions right now? Obviously, I can guess, but I don't know what it's like to sit there and think about the potential of winning $1 million and having that in your DraftKings account tomorrow morning.
Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. $1 million would be awesome. I'm still in line to do very well tonight. But yeah, it's crazy. I went to work today just in complete shock. basically it was complete shock today at work. Barely could concentrate. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like you said, it's going to be probably one of the longest 6 minutes of my life, and we'll see what goes from there.
What did you tell coworkers? Have you told family members, or is this a moment until it's done you want to kind of keep to yourself and then?
Coworkers definitely not. I wanted to keep that a little in line. I was just having a Google Hangout with some of my buddies, and we were watching the game, and family members too. So they're all excited. Definitely rooting against Buck Allen right now.
Rooting against Buck Allen as B. Stewie sits in fifth.
Yeah, as he's rooting hard for Buck Allen.
So you have fifth place, 247 spot 9. You're at 256 spot 7. So we are within the realm of possibilities. That a TD from Buck Allen could change your night a bit. As you hope that Cleveland brings out their best run offense here to milk some clock, drive down the field, and runs time off the clock. And you don't want overtime at this point. You want to see this game end in regulation with Schaub coming back out onto the field for the drive. Sorry, as Cleveland comes back out on the field with Austin Davis for this drive. There's a flag on the punt, so we'll see what that is. Would you prefer to see Johnny Manziel here? What would you want from a play perspective as we keep an eye on this?
I mean, I was one of my best friends is a diehard Browns fan, and I usually hate watching the Browns just because they haven't been relevant in a while. But I thought Johnny played really well when he was in with Pittsburgh. Moved the ball, I thought, pretty well. I thought it'd been exciting to see what he can do with it because he was your first round pick. Give him a shot the rest of the season. But I completely understand where they're coming with. He had all that stuff last year. He wasn't prepared, partying too much, and then he did that, which was crazy.
So you have 256.7 points. You had Russell Wilson, Adrian Peterson, Thomas Rawls, Doug Baldwin, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Julius Thomas, Amari Cooper, and the Chiefs defense. Your highest owned play was Odell Beckham Jr. and the Chiefs defense with 20.3% owned. You have Thomas Rawls. So you had a couple of higher owned plays here who did not come through at their ceiling, but yet you're still sitting here in first place of the Millionaire Maker.
Yeah, definitely. That last play with that 4:00 game with Seattle, that Baldwin to Russell touchdown, that changed everything. I think I was sitting 25 at that point, and then that just bumped me up. I mean, that was unbelievable. I knew I picked Baldwin just because I knew Pittsburgh, they haven't really played well against the pass. Baldwin was still a stretch, to be honest, just because, that's probably the best game of his career. And just so happened it was this week.
All right, Kevin. We are sitting here talking with you. We are looking over your left shoulder. What is the poster over your left shoulder?
Oh, that's an Andy Warhol poster right there.
That is what that is. All right.
Yes, touching up. We got a little Game of Thrones and a couple other things,
So I see is that you got some lights going, you got the lights down, you are ready to enjoy $1 million here potentially. You said you were on a hangout with some friends. As a DFS player, are you someone who would like to be alone, to be on your own and be able to be stressed and happy and go through those range of emotions, or do you like to have the interaction and talk about it as if you were just watching a normal sporting event?
Oh, definitely the interactions. My roommates there, they both have work tomorrow, but they told me to wake them up if I do win. One's at work for business, and we'll see.
So I assume it's not even an attempt to wake them up. If you win, it'll be fairly easy.
Yeah,
by your reaction.
Yes, they will definitely know. 100%. Unfortunately, they're both weirdly they're not into sports that much. Where my friends back home are really into them. So thus the Google Hangout tonight.
So where is back home? You're in Maryland currently. Where is back home? Where are you originally from?
Oh well, I'm originally from Maryland. I'm just in Philadelphia right now, and yeah.
And you said you're working, so you're there for work in Philadelphia?
Yeah. Yep. They're there for work. I actually have a really big test this Saturday, so it's kind of not that good for the test, but maybe this will make up for it.
I assume whatever test it may be, there may be a second chance at that test. Or
Yes. Yeah,
whether-
1,000% second.
Whether it's a series test for finance or whatever it may be.
There you go. You nailed it. Serious test for finance.
I'm well aware of that world, and I stared down one of those tests and didn't take it. So I am well aware of the position you're in right now, but your reason for not studying was vastly different than mine.
Yes. Very much so.
So as we watch this game, you have B. Stewie hoping to get the Baltimore offense back on the field, but Cleveland is just looking to tie this game up. So they are looking to milk as much clock as possible here with Austin Davis in at quarterback. You're getting some help here by players staying in bounds. You're getting the Cleveland offense being the Cleveland offense right here with Austin Davis at the helm. The thing we want to see is a couple of first downs here for you, though. Not get the ball back in Baltimore's hands, because once it's back in Baltimore's hands, you get some rush opportunities for Buck Allen. But the fact of the matter is, you have to like the chances of those runs being straight up the gut, looking for jumbo package, 2 arms on the ball, just trying to get 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And that should not hurt you too much. Just checking out where Buck Allen is on the night. Yeah, he's at 55 rush yards, a rush TD, 29 receiving yards. So would need, obviously, 45 more rush yards for any sort of bonus to kick in, and that would be a vastly different change here. So you entered a Millionaire Maker lineup this week. Was it one of several? Was it a single bullet? How did you come to enter the tournament this week?
Yeah, I actually did pretty well on one of the NBA ones. I got first a couple weeks ago, which was pretty awesome. I played fantasy football probably for like 8 years, love the game. I entered 10 this week. Most I've actually cashed this week, so I did pretty well overall. Even if in a normal day, a normal week, I would be pretty happy with my results. But obviously this is a little different circumstances for me.
So Kevin, we are hitting the 2-minute warning.
Yep.
It is 27-20. Cleveland is trying to drive. Buck Allen remains on the sidelines. We have some movement here below you just to update everybody, as we have Sanj 2225, who also has Buck Allen, who's now up in 8th place, and another user who's moved up to 10th with Buck Allen as well. So you are fading Buck Allen more than any other running back tried to on the Baltimore roster during spring training. You are fading him more than you could possibly believe right now, as anybody behind you is locked and loaded with Buck Allen. 21% owned on the night, 18.4%. 18.4 DK points thus far, and you're hoping for 0 more after that. What does a potential $1 million mean? Obviously, you have whatever, Series 6, Series 7, whatever you have on tap this Saturday. But we mentioned what it could mean in your account. Well, what does it just mean from your life? What could that sort of money go towards? We all now deal with student loans. We all now deal with a variety of things. But what would it mean to you to take home the DK Millionaire Maker here in Week 12 of the NFL season?
Yeah, it's kind of weird to say that this is going to be a life changer for me. I don't think that's weird to say. But it's weird to say a Monday Night Football game is going to be a life changer.
Well, it's weird to say Ravens Browns Monday night.
Yeah, exactly. Who would have thought a Ravens Browns game?
Are you a Ravens fan for being?
No, actually, my mom, all my parents and my brother and sister were both born in Boston. So my parents lived in Boston for about 40 years. Dad, season ticket holder of the Celtics in the 80s, saw all those great teams. So there's no way he was letting me, be a Wizards Caps fan in DC. So I'm Boston all the way.
All right, getting back to how this could change what you have going on from a day-to-day perspective, from a career perspective, and from just a plans perspective moving forward. What would this mean to you to bring home this Millionaire Maker prize in Week 12?
Yeah, I mean, it mean a lot. It definitely opens a lot of options for me. It sets me very well in the future with the money that I'm hoping to save. And, I'm going to enjoy a little. Definitely going to have some travel plans coming up for sure if this happens. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. I'm excited if it happens. And either way, even if I get second, I would still be pretty excited.
Top 10 money is great money here in the Millionaire Maker, but even more so, it's kind of nice as we head towards the end of November. You can focus on January vacation time coming back.
Yeah. Yes.
So you get the reset there at work of getting together what vacation time you can take, as Cleveland is looking to drive here with Austin Davis. They go down the center of the field, and Travis Benjamin, the target from Austin Davis, as we continue focusing here on the Millionaire Maker and sitting with Keezy, Kevin Delaney, as he watches this game unfold before us and into... this is a fun game to watch, as it's now 27-26, Baltimore on top. Travis Benjamin with the touchdown from Austin Davis, and we will have 1:47 to go. A little bit of a delay there for me, as I'm being mindful of the variety of cable networks and satellites out there beaming into your guys' home as you watch this live and I watch this live. Being sure to keep an eye on this. 27-26. The opportunity for the extra point here. And we are tied up at 27. So, Kevin, we have a little bit more of game here to go. 27-27, 1:47 to go. And the potential for Baltimore to get the ball back. Buck Allen, potential here. You are sweating out about 9 points here to the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I'm just praying for a field goal right now.
Kevin, what we're going to do is we're going to let you take a deep breath. We're going to let you take a moment of personal reflection here as we get ready for Baltimore to come back out on the field on offense. We'll come back to you in a little bit. We wish you the best of luck as you sweat this out. Get back to your friends. Get ready to wake up your roommates if all comes to pass here. And we'll check back in with you momentarily here on the DK Sweat Show.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Kevin Delaney watching live there as you saw the touchdown to Travis Benjamin across the middle from Austin Davis. And Davis 6 for 7 on the night with that TD strike to Benjamin, who was wide open across the middle. Not really sure what the Ravens defense was doing. They were not playing defense, that is for sure. Maybe a backgammon game broke out. Maybe a little twister on the sidelines distracted them. Not really sure what it may have been, but either or was a pretty poor output there from the Ravens defense. And we now look towards this Ravens offense getting back on the field with Schaub. 27-27. We bring back in David Kitchen and Andrew Wiggins. Mr. Kitchen, I hope you have some notes prepared for overtime.
Yeah. I told you there'd be a certain segment if we hit overtime, and I don't think there's any way that Baltimore team is going to. In fact, I think they're probably just going to end up being tied. So I kind of knew this is how it was going to play out. We do have a 27-27 game, though, which is good. But, that Travis Benjamin touchdown moved a lot of people. Because if you look at it, is 11% owned. And so talking about like 11 points right there. And not to mention, if he gets 10 more yards, if this game goes into overtime and he gets 10 more yards, then he's going to get another 3 points. So Travis Benjamin owners potentially have at least another 5 points out there.
22 points for Benjamin on the night. The receiving TD, 90 yards, 6 receptions, 10 rushing yards as well for Benjamin. And Andrew, can Matt Schaub do this, or is this destined to go to overtime? Can this happen here? Can we get a field goal out of this Ravens offense?
I think so. And I think we got to start doing when these NFL games aren't so exciting. We'll just sweat the NBA because the Warriors did win. They're still undefeated. So good work to them. And as far as Matt Schaub and all these secondhand NFL players that are playing, yeah, he might be able to do it.
A 3-point victory
I'm not betting
for
on
Golden
it.
State. A 3-point victory for Golden State there as they stay undefeated, 19-0, 9-0 away, 10-0 at home. The Jazz, probably one of their tougher matchups from a defensive perspective on the year for the Warriors, but Steph Curry, 26 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists.
Yeah, he had a really important 3 at the end, nothing but net.
As the Ravens pick up about 9.5 yards on 3rd and 10. We'll face 4th down with 1:29 to go. That one may be reviewed to make sure it was, in fact, a catch on the sideline there. But nonetheless, on their own 30, you got to play for the tie here, right, Dave? Harbaugh has to let this be punted away and give the Browns back the ball.
Like, I don't know what you do. Like, just go for it. I mean, really, when you look at both these teams, Baltimore's 3-7, Cleveland's 2-8. I mean, if this was the NBA, both these teams would just be trying to lose. Like, they would be going on a 4th down every down. So, but the bottom line is just go for it. Just go for it. And that way, if you get it, but I mean, who knows? Cleveland could come back down and kick a field goal if they decide to punt it here.
And this is 4th and 1. Schaub still on the field. Not going to do play-by-play, even though that is a passion of mine. But as we keep an eye here on this contest.
Can you do a delayed play-by-play? I'll pretend that I'm winning $1 million. $1 million.
I didn't. I tried. I tried my best.
In all fairness, though, I've been there where you were delayed and like you're seeing this huge play unfold, but you know that the other person is like 5 to 10 seconds, sometimes even more if they're watching online.
Yep.
Behind, and so you're trying to act like nothing happened, and it's just like instinctive to let out something to that effect. So kudos to you for just like drawing out your words, so you would give out the score exactly when he got there to it.
So I do have some exciting news, guys. I have a second lineup that's pretty good. Snuck up to 338th place.
Why are you saying that? Oh, poor pitiful me.
Because I'm sorry that my 2 good cashes in this thing aren't going to make up for the damage that was done in my cash games. But look at this lineup. It's got DeAndre Hopkins on it, and I'm up in 338. So
you've got a Barnage Allen team and then a Benjamin team, just straight up Benjamin.
Just Benji.
Oh, man. So you went Hopkins. What was Odell Beckham?
Cheaper.
Okay. Well, I'm not even going to say then what I was originally thinking.
We have Cleveland back with the ball. As David pointed out, Travis Benjamin owners could be in line for a bump here if it comes to pass, as Austin Davis will drop back to pass, try to drive Cleveland down the field to pick up enough yardage to pick up the win here at home. 27-27 the score, and we are still sweating out with Kevin Delaney here in first place. Kesey has been in first place all night long. He is fading Buck Allen and currently doing that well with him on the sideline. As Dave did point out, you do have some Benjamin owners creeping up the standings here. A long score from Benjamin could change this drastically if that were to come to pass. Not sure if there's anybody within striking distance, as I don't know that either team really wants to win this game.
Hey, can I ask Andrew a question as far as how much time do you spend, or do you even spend any more time now that have been around the game so long? How much time do you spend playing the what if game, reverse engineering stuff?
I try not to spend too much, but sometimes it's unavoidable. But like in a spot like this, even if I had played Beckham, I wouldn't be winning. So
right,
I can totally forget about it. But yeah, I mean, well, if you look at the other team I had, it was a Ben. I think it was Ben and Martavis. So it's like if Ben could have thrown a touchdown to Martavis late, I might have might have kind of been live, and then maybe I'd start playing the what if game because I could have had an extra 20 points on that roster. But
yeah, well, if Martavis,
you try not to because you'll go crazy doing it.
But we still do it. I still
Absolutely.
do it. A couple weekends ago, and actually like hours before my daughter was born, I lost out on $15,000 playing college football on 2 yards. I lost by 0.2 points, and it was on the Josh Rosen 39-yard touchdown, like at the end of the fourth quarter, the quarterback. And it was gut wrenching. And I knew that if I had just played the guy that I wanted to play, that I would have won it. But losing by that 0.2, like I still went back and reverse engineered the lineup. I could have done this. I could have done this. I could have done that.
I mean, I still think about the NBA one sometimes because it was such a big amount. But yeah, I mean, part of playing DFS, if you play a lot and you play some volume, like part of it is just dealing with the mind games because you can really drive yourself crazy. Especially football's the worst because you can sit there all day Monday thinking about what you could have done and the games haven't finished yet. At least with basketball or baseball, you can just move on.
And Tuesday and Wednesday and some of Thursday.
Yeah, NFL is a way of torturing you for sure.
Let's play a game. Let's have the audience out there tell Andrew what 2v2 swap he could have done to be. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, hey, I could list off about 5 right now.
So
yeah, that is what we do.
Cleveland punts the ball back. So it seemed as though Kevin Delaney in first place there had a chance to breathe a sigh of relief, but Cleveland gives it right back to Baltimore. 56 seconds to go here. Schaub back out on the field, and good field position for Baltimore, looking to pick up just enough to pick up a possible field goal, but nonetheless, Matt Schaub doing Matt Schaub sorts of things.
Yeah, in his white tighty whitey underwear.
So I did play Browns D on my cash games in DraftKings, but unfortunately I'm so far behind that it doesn't matter. But it kind of goes to show why sometimes it's good if they're so cheap just to take a flyer on them, because you can end up spending for defenses, and a lot of times they don't give you what you want. Like I really like the Chiefs on Sunday, just with the rain and everything seemed to kind of be lining up for them. They've been playing so well. But if you ended up spending for them, you got 5 points, and now you got the Browns D at 10 points for minimum. There's just so much variance with defenses. Sometimes it's good just to go spend that money elsewhere.
Wakey back up to 7th place with that INT. That is where he's sort of hung out for most of the night. Going back between there and about 11th and 12th, gets the INT back up to 7th with 243, spot 16. The Browns back out on the field, and Kevin Delaney, barring anything crazy here with 45 seconds to go, has the opportunity to breathe again with Buck Allen on the sidelines. It would seem with 256.7 points, it may just hold. We'll keep an eye on this as Cleveland will get ready to bring their field goal unit on if they get into range. Now, we still are fading overtime at this point, right, Dave? That's what the biggest fade of all for Kesey here in first place is?
Yeah, and he's just wanting this game to end, and it is interesting. Brian Hartline now becoming a thing, and had a lot of hype coming out of preseason, and just has not done anything. But if you kind of take a look, now all of a sudden he's doing things. So we'll see what happens with him. But also there's that narrative. I mean, last week he had like 9 targets. The week before that he had 10 targets. So, maybe Brian Hartline becoming some possession type receiver that people want to roster now.
Amazing moment there from Austin Davis of having the sideline open to him and yet sliding down inbounds and having to blow a timeout for Cleveland with 9 seconds on the clock instead of just stepping out of bounds another yard or so downfield. See if that comes back to hurt Cleveland or not here. Not the smartest move there for Mr. Davis on the sidelines. Could have gotten out and saved the timeout, but instead, Cleveland with an opportunity here for one last play and then a field goal attempt barring a turnover. This has turned into an exciting game. Not one we expected per se. Cleveland will set up shop for a field goal attempt. And from a play calling perspective, I know we can talk about this, but why run the ball there? Why run it up the middle, Andrew? What are you expecting to gain out of that?
Sometimes I'm just doing this.
Sometimes it's just like getting it's just trying to get as many yards and set yourself up in the position to kick. Like kickers have their certain angles that they want.
Right,
So,
from a hash mark on the field.
Right. So when you pass, sometimes that's like out of your control. But when you run, you know you're running it to. You know that they're already in Travis Coons' range. So why not just get it to where he wants and they can kick a field goal?
We are working to get Kevin Delaney back here on the Sweat Show. We'll see if he can join us as this game has the potential to come to a close on this field goal attempt from Travis Coons. 27-27, currently the score, 3 seconds on the clock. Monday Night Football coming down to the gun here. As we said at the top, this may not be the best real-world matchup, but it's turned into a pretty good sweat down the stretch here as far as DFS implications are concerned. It will be Coons on for the win for Cleveland. See if Baltimore decides to try to ice the kicker here or not, but this is the first one I can remember. But Dave, final play of the game, DFS implications here, Millionaire Maker, Sweat, potential to go to overtime. This is why we're here, right?
This is what you're playing for right here. Socks.
And amazingly,
I don't know where you got those. I do, but do you wear those around?
They don't call me Sock or Dave for nothing, fella.
I get a pair of those.
So, gentlemen, I have to break this one. A blocked field goal and a return by the Baltimore Ravens for the win.
Holy crap!
Are you kidding me?
I'm here looking at Dave. His dreamy eyes, and I don't see any of it.
So a blocked kick on the Coons attempt returned the other way for a score, and this game is over. 33-27. Baltimore wins.
My goodness.
That is such a Cleveland way to lose. Like that is like so Cleveland. It's not even funny.
That's a cool way to lock the million down, though.
A block across the middle, scoop and score down the sideline. And Kevin Delaney is able to fade Buck Allen in a Baltimore Ravens victory.
Wow. Yeah, that heads up play by 33, and just to be able to, nobody got to him.
The scoop and the score. And we'll see if we can get Kevin back on. I'm sure he has already woken up his roommates. He may be well in to celebrating this victory tonight. If we do not get Keezy back, we wish him congratulations. Amazing to sweat out the entire night, stay in first place for the entire way. He made the point that he went to work today, was in a bit of shock, and now as this game goes final, we have zeros across the board. Kevin Delaney is the Week 12 DraftKings Millionaire Maker. What a contest and what a win tonight as Baltimore wins 33-27 on a blocked kick returned for a touchdown.
He's got to get a picture of that block and frame it and hang it up in his house, because that was too cool of a way to win the million.
We are waiting. I have to say, I guess we're waiting the extra point. What are we waiting for here?
There shouldn't be an extra point.
Meanwhile, if that holds, you have Wakey just got destroyed by his own team's special teams. Like, wasn't even his defense. It was the special teams. Still got decent enough points, but he lost $5,000 on that play. I guess, like, after last week, they were due a little bit of luck. Like, okay, we're still going to be in the top 10, but you're only going to – it's like the DFS karma. Like, you guys did so well last week, this season, that you only get to be in the top 10. You only get $25,000 this week instead of $30,000. But I wonder if he was wanting overtime so that he could go potentially get higher. He's shaking his head yes. So he was willing to risk it. And I guess when you only have 5,000 to lose, but potentially more to gain. So it's really tough for Wakey to only win $25,000 instead of $30,000. Like, I feel really bad for him watching, like I know he's watching, sitting on a golden couch, watching like the 4 screens man cave of Sammy Knoll. My heart goes out to him.
As do all of ours here on the DK Sweat Show. Dave, Andrew, great stuff as always here on the DK Sweat Show. Thanks for joining. Great insight. And we will see you guys again next week. And we will continue to bring you guys week over week the Millionaire Maker Sweat and all these great contests here on DraftKings.com. Kevin Delaney, Keezy, the Week 12 Millionaire Maker winner. He will wake up tomorrow morning and look forward to that series test on Saturday in a whole new light. That is for sure. Hopefully he's waking up the roommates now to let them know the good news. Thanks to Adam Levitan. Thanks to Adam Kaufman from 98.5, the Sports Hub here in Boston, CBS NFL analyst. Thanks to David Kitchen and Andrew Wiggins. Thanks to this entire crew here for DraftKings TV. And as always, as I sign off, I'm gonna wait for you to finish typing. You know, we're live. We're good. We're rapping. We're going. It's your call, Ben. You run the ship. We may have Kevin joining, so we're gonna hang here for one moment and see if Kevin can join us here on the Sweat Show to close this out and just get his final reaction. Here we will give you a final word, see if we can get Kevin Delaney up to talk to us about what an ending to this Baltimore-Cleveland final as we try to get Kevin Delaney, Keezy, back up here on the DK Sweat Show to discuss being a DraftKings millionaire here in Week 12. Wait for Ben to give me the high sign that Kevin is ready to join. He is victorious on one of the strangest plays I've seen to end a football game, a blocked kick and return for a score. The move there could have easily been for Baltimore to fall on the ball and would have led us to overtime. But the score there for Baltimore picks up the points, makes it 33-27, and closes out this game and closes out this contest as a win for Kevin Delaney as he picks up the Millionaire Maker Millionaire Maker win here in Week 12 as we close out an exciting night here on DKTV. And we are going to close it out. We're going to say congratulations to Keezy, Kevin Delaney. We wish you many more victories here on DraftKings, and enjoy that money as it comes into your DK account. And best of luck on your series test. If you do decide to take it on Saturday, I'm sure you'll have other things on your mind. Again, thanks to Adam Levitan, Adam Kaufman, David Kitchen, and Andrew Wiggins, this whole DraftKings TV crew doing the work behind the scenes to get this show on the air. We'll see you again next week right here on The Sweat Show on DKTV. Have a great night, guys.